Right, folks, this is a new podcast from the Two Mics, and I'm going to give you old Energy Boy, MG, to introduce it.
Yeah, we've edited out all the nonsense from Mike Porky Parry, so it might be a bit shorter than usual.
Ha, 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 ha. Look at the light!
Well, you're suggesting you're now in the same area as Kant.
Excuse me.
Immanuel Kant.
Oh, I've never heard of him. I'm sorry about that. Rather shocked me, though. I thought you'd lost the plot there. No.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very good morning to a very punchy Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Very good morning to you, Mike. What do you mean punchy?
Well, you were a bit aggressive, I thought, when we were talking.
Well, you know, you were getting all mouthy again as usual. You know what I mean?
Really,
Shoot your mouth off, trying to make out you're the big guy.
No, not really. We just asked a question and I answered it. You know, whereas you started threatening me with punching me.
No.
Seemed a little bit over the top.
No. It was a straightforward question, I think, from our predecessor, Mr. Goldstein. Who asked if we had
Goldstein.
Koeman, Goldstein, if we had a straightforward fight, who would win? And it's obvious I would, because
how's it obvious? We had a boxing competition, right?
No, we didn't.
Your boxing prowess was proven to be about as strong as a 10-year-old. So, I mean, you weren't even able to get the thing over 500.
No, you don't.
Everybody has to go to Two Mics TV and watch the boxing competition on YouTube. It's very clear who's got a stronger punch.
No, you don't understand. What we did was we participated in basically a fairground ride.
Yeah.
Not a ride, a fairground attraction. A fairground attraction where there's a punch ball and you punch it and it goes boing, 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 boing.
No, it was electronic,
right,
actually.
like that. That's
electronic.
right. Yeah,
well, people should go and look at it and make their own minds up.
Yeah, but you see, what you don't understand.
Are you now saying because you lost at that therefore it doesn't count?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't count. I'm saying it's totally misrepresented.
You're saying it is of no representation of the strength of your punch. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. If you just let me explain what I'm saying, then perhaps...
Well, we haven't got all night.
We could get over to the audience. Well, if you stop interrupting, I can explain.
I'll try.
The art of boxing is a skill.
Is it?
And it's a skill which involves timing, precision...
Yes. None of which you have.
Weight of punch, direction of punch, timing of punch.
Yeah, well, but the machine also represents that. And if you hit the machine properly with the right timing, it will give you a bigger score.
It doesn't. You see, the reason I was both the Butlins boxing champion at the age of 6 and the boxing champion of the King's School Chester is because I know exactly where to land a punch.
Really?
Now, that is very different from punching a punch bag. You see what I mean?
Why don't we just have a proper boxing match then?
Well, that's pointless because, I'm afraid you would collapse like a pack of cards. You are a very unfit man.
No, I wouldn't.
You smoke 40 cigarettes a day.
I would not collapse like a pack of cards.
You drink to excess.
I would kick the living daylights out of you.
No, you wouldn't, honestly.
No, I would.
And it would be an unfair competition.
Right.
But anyway, that's by the by. You
would then claim to be a victim, as you always do when you lose at anything. I would say that, only 1/3 of my heart works. I have to go to hospital and get myself checked out.
I would duck and weave my way in until I hit you on the point of the chin where the two...
you see, talk a very good game. No, that's all you do is talk a good game.
The two vagal nerves meet at the point of your chin.
Oh, yeah.
I hit you there and connect with both of them at the same time, and that puts your lights out.
Really?
Your lights would go out just like that. You'd be flying around on the floor.
I mean, you're like some kind of 12-year-old who talks about how you could beat up somebody's dad.
No, not at all.
You couldn't do it. So let's just move on.
Now, listen, this draw tonight, I am so upset now that Everton went out last night.
You could have had Leeds, couldn't you?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Although, I was going to ask you this, because I knew you would come up with
the Norwich ball was the Everton ball.
Well, yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
But, I mean, have you actually worked out the mathematical odds, if Everton were in that draw, that they would have absolutely got the same result? Because it may not necessarily be the case.
Well, I think they would have done, because all the other balls came out in a separate pair of two, if you see what I mean. Right. So those two balls would have come out together. So we would have gone away to Leeds, right? Now, no disrespect to Leeds, excuse me. Yeah, I'm fine, yeah. No disrespect to Leeds, but Leeds are not the force they were, say, 10 years ago or something like that. In fact, they're a bit of a joke club at the moment because they have so many different managers and people.
Well, I don't think even the players can keep up with who the manager is.
No, that's right. So my view is that Everton, in their present Premier League form, would have gone there and got through to the last stage of the competition.
Well, you say
so
that,
it's very upsetting.
I mean, but presumably Ronald Koeman, if he had got through, would have fielded another weakened team.
Well, I hope not. I hope not.
Lost to Leeds.
And at the same time, big clubs are knocking each other out. So either City United are going out.
Yeah.
Is it Liverpool Spurs?
Liverpool Spurs.
Either Liverpool Spurs are going out, and either West Ham and Chelsea are going out. Yeah. So
you do have to worry about that particular fixture as well. We'll perhaps talk about that in a little while.
It's interesting listening to people who have experienced the Olympic Stadium firsthand. You know, they've been there and fans and talking about trouble and being separated from their mates and all that kind of stuff. It does look like it's a bit of a hodgepodge at the moment.
Well, the other thing, after we talked about it the other week, is the police have said that, there's nothing they can do
because of the wireless situation.
They have a situation inside the stadium where their walkie-talkies don't work.
Yeah.
Which seems extraordinary to me, doesn't it?
Well,
I mean, how can they have built a stadium and not basically enabled it for Wi-Fi or whatever it is they need?
I mean, particularly with the Olympic Stadium, so it was the most important stadium in the world at the time.
Does that mean when the Olympics were on, the police also couldn't operate inside it?
No, I don't believe it can be. It must be that they've taken that system down during the refurbishment of the stadium. What I think is most interesting, and this is, I'm not trying to be funny here or it's a reflection on West Ham, but before all of this started, before the problems emerged that they've got the stadium now, I mean, people were queuing up to claim the credit for this fantastic event. We've acquired the stadium, we've turned it into a football ground. Yeah. It's the third biggest in Britain, it's the best in Britain.
And it's going to enable us to launch ourselves at the Champions League. and we're going to be getting more and more money coming in.
And all I've been hearing over the last sort of couple of weeks is that, well, it's not our problem. It's not our stadium. We're only there for, 50 days a year or something. Yeah. We only rent it. It's the fault of the landlords. They should have got it right. We haven't done anything except move in when we told it was ready. It's amazing how the gloss on the whole project seems to have gone to matte paint almost.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean? And it did take them rather a long time to get past their Accrington Stanley foes last night, didn't they? Last kick of the game.
96 minutes?
It was the last kick of the game.
Amazing.
Mr. Pyatt. But, so things at West Ham are not good. But, I mean, we did talk about this. We did take calls from West Ham fans before. We're not going to do that necessarily now.
No.
But the Chelsea-West Ham fixture was one that everybody said would be a problem because there would be, the mixture of the various crowds, different fans, different areas of the ground and all that.
Totally agree.
Suddenly now on October the 24th, I think it is, they're going to meet at the London Stadium.
Yes.
Now, I've got quite a few good tweets here. One from James, who's had a look at the video. Didn't it take Porky 3 attempts to get a score of around 544, whereas UMG got 642 in one punch?
Yeah, but hang on. Are you trying to say that the man who had the hardest punch in the history of boxing was the longest reigning world champion? Because that's just not true.
What?
It's just not true.
Who are you talking about?
Anybody. All I'm saying is a great boxer like Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't known for his, dynamic punch.
Well, it depends what weight you're talking about, doesn't it?
Well, anyway.
I mean, you and I would probably be considered to be heavyweights in this particular arena.
Now, listen, if you go across the road from here, there's a pub called The Ring,
There is.
And
I was in there the other day.
You're in there, you're in there most days.
I'm not in there most days.
You're in some pub most days.
No, see, once again, I'm not going to let you get away with all this projection, right?
Why?
I have not been in a pub today.
Oh, haven't you?
Have you been in one?
No, I haven't.
Are you sure?
Let me think. Yes, almost sure, yeah.
Almost sure?
Yeah.
Were you in one yesterday?
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
No. But anyway, look, this is irrelevant because I want to tell you about The Ring.
No, you've just said I'm in a pub every day. I want you to take that back.
You go.
I want you to take it back.
You go into licensed premises most days.
Incorrect. That is not true.
Well, anyway, look, we'll gloss over that.
We'll gloss over it because it's just another lie.
No, it's not a lie. Now, the point is, the reason I'm talking about The Ring is because it is, in fact, a public house dedicated to the noble art of boxing.
Indeed. Well, because there was a boxing ring upstairs.
There was a gym.
Yeah, there still is one up there, I think.
I think there is, but being
we could go there and have a fight.
Being a boxing gym, it would have a ring in it, so that's why it's called
The Ring. What I'm saying is I believe it's still used as a boxing ring.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, I've never seen boxers walking in and out of there with bent noses and all that.
I think there is still a club.
But there's a few fascinating things about that place. One of them are the pictures that go back to the sort of 50s of men who were involved in boxing in those days. And they look like guys who could just as easily have been members of the Cray gang, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. Bent noses, cauliflower ears, very ugly sort of personas, ill-fitting suits, all that kind of stuff. Sort of people used to see in boxing in those days. Uh-huh. Not like these days when you see guys like Eddie Hearn, who was, what's the word, erudite and well-dressed and all that kind of stuff.
Tailored suits.
But it did used to be a very grubby profession.
Well, I mean, there are still, I think, nights where you can go. I mean, I went to one in Glasgow, which was rather not sort of unsavoury, but I didn't enjoy it very much. Where people there was like a boxing dinner, and you were sitting around in a black tie outfit, eating dinner and chatting and drinking, while people were knocking seven bells out of each other in the middle of a sort of floodlit ring.
I've been to a few of those.
It's quite savage, actually.
But anyway, let me tell you about The Ring. You see, so you see all these pictures all over the place, and some of the pictures go back to even the last century. It was the bare knuckle boxing and all that kind of stuff. But however, if you're standing at the bar and ordering a pint of rather nice sort of light pale ale or something like that, as you look to your left, straight at the wall, there's a huge picture of Henry Cooper, who is the original heavyweight boxing hero of Britain before all our heavyweight boxing champions of the world came along.
Indeed.
Now, the point I'm making...
we haven't had that many heavyweight boxing champions of the world.
Oh, we've had a few in the last, in recent years. We've had quite a few. Yeah. But so what I was going to say is this. Henry Cooper was known as...
time, by the way.
What was Henry Cooper's biggest weapon?
His biggest weapon was his left hook, wasn't it?
Called Henry's hammer.
Yeah.
Henry, like no H on the front, right. Henry's hammer.
Okay.
So if Henry Cooper was known for Henry's hammer, the one that knocked down and felled Cassius Clay as he was then...
And should have probably resulted in him winning that boxing match.
Yeah, although not the world title, because Clay wasn't the world champion at the time, actually, as you well know. But what I'm saying is... You're saying, oh, the hardest puncher is the best boxer. Henry Cooper...
I'm not saying that at all.
When
did I say that? When did I say that?
You've insinuated that.
No, I have not insinuated anything like that. I just said when we had a boxing match with a computer game, when you had to hit something to see how hard you could hit it, you couldn't hit it very hard.
I've just said that hitting a
You had three goes at it.
Hitting a punch bag hard is no guide to how effective you are as a pugilist, okay?
That's true, because when you're a boxing trainer, the first thing you say to the guy who comes in, and you say, have a punch at that punch bag, and don't worry if you can't hit it very hard, because we'll turn you into a boxer anyway.
Henry's hammer was ineffective in terms of being the best in the world, whereas our subsequent world champions were never known for the strength of their punches. They were known for their guile, their precision, their skill, and their wherewithal in ring craftery, okay?
Really? Yes.
But you don't understand any of that.
You're just talking absolute and utter
rubbish.
No,
I'm talking complete sense.
Normally it takes you a little while to start talking this much rubbish, but you're right into it in this
I'm talking complete sense. Henry's hammer was ineffective.
I'll read you some tweets in
Henry's hammer was ineffective.
I'll read you some tweets. But have you been in a pub immediately before coming in here?
No, but it was the only weapon he had, because he couldn't do anything else, because he was a big lumbering chap who, you know, had a bit of difficulty working out.
Well, I think you'll find he was the British and European champion.
Yeah, but he was never world champion. We've had world champions since then who didn't have the hardest punch in the world.
That's right.
Okay?
Because Muhammad Ali was around at the time.
That proves my point.
Nothing proves your point. You're being particularly annoying tonight, so we're going to have to stop talking to each other for a while.
Well, you're getting on my nerves.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You might as well say, well, you're going out, aren't you?
No, you can't say that. No, you can't say that. I mean, cup football is very, very different to the travails of the Premier League.
Right.
And
are you going to adopt this tone all the way through the show?
What tone?
Well, this kind of, teacherly type tone, like you're saying things
what are you
as
on
if,
about?
I don't know, I've just crawled out of an egg, and you have to teach me about everything.
I don't...
You've just told me now that, apparently, cup football is very different from league football.
You've got some sort of irritability factor tonight, so I'd like to sort yourself out, please, before we go any further, or I might get irritated with you. No, what I'm saying is, you know as well as I do, that cup football does not conform to consistency as much as league football.
Yeah.
So if you now get it, what are you complaining about?
Well, yeah, but by no means of alchemy would you look at the situation at Manchester City and Manchester United and say that Manchester United will be able to beat Manchester City ever in this particular context.
Alchemy. You're the only alky around here, mate.
Alchemy. Yeah. They've all got it, alchemy. Now, how about this? Stuart says this. A boxing match would be harder for MG, as he would have to work out which chin to hit on Porky first.
Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Steve says, what if Porky took a third off old MG's score to compensate for the part of his heart that is inactive?
Well, that's that's not a bad... that is a very good point, actually. I can't possibly put as much weight behind a punch on a punch bag, which, of course, is no indication of how good a boxer you are, as I've just explained. But how can I, when my body mass is being propelled by a heart that's one-third of yours?
Well, I mean, indeed, that's
one-third of yours.
That's why your argument is so ridiculous, because you are not well. You're not physically capable of having a boxing match with anybody.
Well, it would be dangerous for me to do it, but then again, I don't run away from challenges.
Lord Rallo says this. El Planco talks a good game, but when MG gets to the point and asks for a match, the plank backs down.
No, I don't.
Chicken.
Excuse me, I was just pointing out the facts. No, I don't get like
Float
that.
like a butterbutt or sting like old MG. My money is on MG, says John.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. That draw for the next round.
Yes.
I mean, Newcastle v Preston. I mean, that's a freebie for a team outside of the Premier League to get through to the next round.
Yeah, you think Preston could get through?
Yeah, I think they could. Bristol City versus Hull City. See, Hull City will probably
Well, what does
win
that mean?
one.
What does that mean for Mark Hughes, by the way?
Well, Mark Hughes is in trouble because he lost at home again tonight, didn't he?
He did.
And he hasn't won a game yet this season.
Well, they sit in the bottom of the table.
Yeah, I think he's drawn one and lost four, hasn't he?
He's just knocked out of the League Cup, basically, or the EFL Cup.
Yes.
I can't get used to calling it the EFL Cup, I have to say.
Have you ever seen Mark Hughes tell a joke?
No.
Fine, to be honest. And I mean,
I imagine there's quite a lot of jokes about him.
I'm not being funny, but what I'm saying is, think of the great, sort of personality managers over the last 10 years.
Right.
So Rafa Benitez, he does put a smile on your face sometimes.
He does,
he talked about the tail of a lion and the head of a mouse and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And people,
he has a certain charisma.
He has a charisma about him, and he has a laugh and a shout. Fact this, fact that, fact, and all the rest.
Yeah.
Davy Moyes always has a smile on his face, even in adversity. He sort of had a smile on his face.
I wouldn't use him necessarily as a great example because he's been quite stony-faced of late. I mean,
he has. Yeah.
He's a lovely guy, I think, and you know him better than I do.
Yeah, but I've had a laugh and a shout with David on a number of occasions, when he was Everton manager. Look at Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
He's always got something funny to say.
Yeah.
Even Arsene Wenger makes an odd quip here and there, doesn't he? And breaks the stony sort of, rigid school teacher-like visage.
You'll have heard Ray Parlour talking about him behind the scenes, where he's actually, they used to call him Inspector Clouseau.
That's right,
because he kind of bumbles around and falls into things and trips over stuff, and he's actually very funny.
Because he's so funny.
Yeah.
But if you think of Mark Hughes, Mark Hughes has always, to me, been a man of deadly earnest. I mean, deadly earnest. And would never, ever see the funny side of anything in which he was involved, being a football manager, of course, being the main thing that he's involved in. But also, I don't think I've ever seen him smile.
But, I mean, isn't that the point about some of these guys? To be a football manager, it's a very hard job. It's very well paid, and so nobody should feel too sorry for them.
That's right.
Even when they get fired.
That's right.
But, I mean, you have to really be able to laugh at yourself, surely, in order to do that job. In order to do it properly and well.
Yeah, I tell you can do that. I mean, I've seen Sam Allardyce do that.
Yeah.
I've seen him in Exasperation talk about, and the guy who used to do that most of all was Ron Atkinson.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Big Ron would, say things like, I remember once he was asked, he had a great start to the season with Manchester United, and then they went into a bit of a dip, and I think they only got like 1 point out of 3 games or something like that. And he was asked as he was getting on the coach, by a reporter, Ron, have you ruined your chances of, winning the title? And he just snapped back and says, well, I don't think we're going to be relegated this season. Put it that way. You know what I mean? Always something like that. Whereas you would never get that from Mark Hughes. You'd always get a sort of, a stony-faced response, He
looks as if he takes himself quite seriously.
He does, yeah. I mean, do you know what? I don't think I've ever spoken to him, actually.
Have you not?
No, I don't think I've ever heard him interviewed either. And on a show on Talk Sport.
On anything other than a sort of just after a game?
Yeah, just after a game, seen it. Yeah, but I
don't think he's ever been in here, actually.
I don't think he's ever been here. But anyway, look, all I'm saying is every man to his style. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
But if Mark Hughes doesn't have a sense of humour, then he's going to find himself in a particularly black mood at the moment.
Yes, he's not going to be happy at all.
Exactly.
And what about the situation at Chelsea then, with Chelsea and West Ham and the London Stadium? I mean, if the police say they can't police the games, right?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Are they going to have to hire private security, or how's that going to work? Is it the responsibility of the EFL Cup people, or is it the responsibility of West Ham, or what?
It's the responsibility of the people who host the game, isn't it? I mean, they have to ensure the safety and comfort of the spectators.
Right. But if West Ham say it's the responsibility of the police to keep order, and the police say we can't do that because our machines don't work, it's a kind of stalemate, isn't it?
It's only the responsibility of the police to keep order if West Ham hire the police. To have policemen inside the ground, you have to hire them. And that's the reason why so many grounds now just have stewards, because stewards are a lot cheaper than hiring policemen, which is the right thing to do. A policeman's a highly trained individual. A steward is probably,
in a game like that,
some guy who's an undertaker during the day and a steward at night or something like that.
There's no need to insult undertakers.
I'm not insulting anybody. I'm saying that it's usually a part-time job.
Right, okay.
A guy's not going to be a full-time steward, is he? Because if he was, he'd only work once a week for about 4 or 5 hours.
But presumably in a game like that, the police would be on patrol outside the stadium.
Well, they will have van loads of police parked in and around the stadium in side streets and all that. You see that all the time, and that's a standby in case anything happens.
Yeah.
But that is the responsibility of the police, funded by the taxpayer, because you're in the public arena. You're in the streets, which are policed by the police themselves.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, are West Ham now going to go to the police and say, look, we want to hire you despite the fact that your radios don't work?
Yeah.
And are the police going to say...
Well, the police will say no, surely, won't they?
Well, I was going to say, there's no point in hiring us, because if crowd trouble breaks out one end of the ground, the police officers we have up there are not going to be able to notify our police officers at the other end of the ground. Yeah. So, frankly, we can't do anything for you.
Exactly.
And
so are they going to have to then in some way segregate the crowd? But we keep hearing that, at the moment, whenever there's a game there, the segregation process is not working properly.
Well, if I was trying to work this out myself and I was only to do with West Ham, I would go to the police and say, look, I know you can't police the ground, but please can you send 6 of your top advisors to come and address our stewards the day before the game to tell them exactly what your fears would be about crowd disturbance.
Sure.
And then we've got some professional insight into how to stop it.
But if they don't know where the fans are from varying teams, right, then clearly it's going to be very difficult for them to police anything.
Well, I agree.
And that seems to be the situation at the moment.
It does seem to be the situation at the moment, and it's a situation which one has to say is left in abeyance.
Well, it is.
In terms of what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
The answer is quite a lot.
And I'm guessing that if this comes to the attention of the EFL Cup people, they might say maybe it's better to play the game somewhere else.
Well, I don't think they would say that. If they said that, they would have to... They can only do it with the agreement of both teams because the way the draw has evolved is that the game's taking place at West Ham. No, I don't know whether we're over-egging the pie here a bit and saying that, there's bound to be trouble. You've come into the show tonight assuming there is going to be a lot of trouble at this West Ham-Chelsea game.
Well, every West Ham fan that we've heard from who's been on the radio talking about this, not just on our show, on other shows, has said, I dread to think what's going to happen when Chelsea come.
Yeah,
because West Ham Chelsea is known to be a difficult fixture.
But is that doom-mongering?
I don't think it is. I think it might be being realistic.
I think West Ham, because, there's no doubt about it, the people behind West Ham know how to run a club well, and they're faced with a situation now which they haven't encountered before, i.e. the new ground.
Right.
But the intent must be to bring law and order and safety and comfort to the stadium. So you would expect that as each game goes by and more problems arise, they will do more to try and counter them.
Yes.
So you have to say there'll be an awful lot of hard work being put into that West Ham-Chelsea game to make sure nothing goes wrong.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yes.
We've got loads more tweets. You can tweet us, of course, at the 2 Mikes,
you
at
can.
Mike Parry 8, at IROMG. We're going to talk to Gordon Hill coming up in a little while. Much more to come, though, next on TalkSport.
On DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
This is TalkSport. We are the 2 Mikes. Loads more coming up, including Porky Vision, of course, the greatest TV review of this side of Fremantle, Australia. And we say that because we're going down to Australia a little bit later on to talk about this combination of a hamburger and a hot dog, which sounds pretty disgusting, actually. But we'll find out why this guy is making an absolute.
Well, I think that's prejudging things a little bit, isn't it? I'm sure it'll be, rather.
Well, I wouldn't fancy. It's a bit like how
pleasantly tasty.
Well, I don't know. You know how you can now buy pizza with a hot dog crust.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
A hot dog crust?
Yeah.
No, the ones I see advertised all the time, there's pizza with a crust full of liquid cheese in it.
Yeah, with liquid cheese.
Yeah,
they do all that. But they'd also do one of the big chains does one
I'm not very keen
with
on
a hot
that.
dog crust. So they delivered a load of them in here one night, and it was pretty disgusting, to be fair.
Yeah.
Now, let me read you a couple more tweets.
Okay.
CFC Nigel says, West Ham Chelsea pre-match entertainment, a boxing match with you two. It'll be that kind of night anyway.
Yeah, that's a bit odd.
That's probably pushing your luck a little bit. Al says, why don't you have an arm wrestle to settle it? Shut Sugar Ray Porky up.
Yeah, well...
and Villa Rich says, I wish old Henry would come in and knock Porky's lights out.
Oh, really?
But
that's very nice,
happen,
isn't it?
Yeah. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And, poor old Henry's dead a long time, isn't he now?
Yes, exactly.
Nice chap, married to an Italian lady.
He was a lovely guy.
He was a very nice guy.
And his brother, of course, who looked not that like him, but very similar to him, didn't he?
Cyril?
Cyril Cooper, was it? No, I don't think so.
Henry Cooper, Henry Zammer.
Can't remember what his brother's name was.
Henry and Colin?
I think it was Colin.
Colin, Cyril,
we'll find out.
Cooper, Colin Cooper.
Colin Cooper. I don't think so.
There was a Colin Cooper. He was a centre-half for Nottingham Forest.
Was he?
I think so.
All right. Was he related to Henry Cooper?
No, definitely not.
Was it George?
George, no. I'll tell you that was.
It was George Cooper.
There was another boxer whose brother became head of a big entertainment conglomerate who had like a lot of one-armed bandits and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Something, was it First Leisure or something like that?
Don't know.
And
Top Rank, maybe?
I know. Was it London? Was it Brian London's brother, George London?
I don't know.
No, I don't think it was, actually. It was... Anyway, this guy was a good boxer. He was a good boxer. And his brother...
Right.
I think his brother was his manager when he was a boxer. And then when
Henry Cooper now or somebody else?
No, I'm talking about... I'll tell you where the offices were. You know where Vauxhall Bridge Road is? Just around the corner from Talksport Towers here. That's where his offices
Pimlico.
were. No. Vauxhall Bridge Road and Southwark Road.
Well, Vauxhall Bridge Road goes down to Vauxhall Bridge.
Yes, I know.
That's why it's called Vauxhall Bridge Road. It goes from Victoria Station down to Pimlico.
No, I've got completely the wrong road and bridge. It's, Southwark Bridge Road. Southwark Bridge Road. Southwark Bridge Road.
Which goes to Southwark Bridge.
That's right, absolutely, yeah. And that's where his offices were. And his name was George... something, George. And his brother was a boxer. But in the end, George became a multimillionaire.
What the hell are we talking about now?
Well, talking about boxers and what happens to them after they retire.
George Cooper was indeed, it turns out, Henry's twin.
Thank you. I
said George, you said no.
No, I did. I said
George. You said it wasn't George.
I did.
You just said it wasn't.
What?
I can't go on.
No, okay.
I have to go for a lie down.
No, I understand, yeah, what you're saying, yeah. Okay, and he was his twin.
He was his twin, but they weren't identical. But they were quite similar looking. It was quite spooky when they stood together because they were the same size.
Yes, that's right, of course
anyway,
they were, yeah.
Listen, do you know what happened to me today?
No.
After all that ranting and raving and groaning and moaning you did last night about the 20-mile-an-hour cameras, right?
Okay, and you've got to be very careful with these things, yes.
I was taking my car for an MOT, right?
Yes.
And I told you in my road there's one of these cameras, but nobody knows what it's been calibrated to, right?
Right.
And it's up on a high stick. It's not the lower one.
Yeah.
And it's pointed at an angle. And I was driving towards it, right?
It's looking at you.
It's looking at me,
right,
yeah.
I see.
Because traditionally the speed camera takes you as you're going past it from behind, doesn't it?
If it's a yellow box one, it's usually getting you from behind. But if it's one of those which is looking at you and it's got a circular, you can see it's a circular camera,
right.
That's an infrared, and that gets you...
Does that do both directions?
No, that does you on approach. You drive into that
why does
camera.
Everybody slow down to 20 when they go past it then? When it's on, when they're passing it and it's going behind
Well,
them?
shall I tell you why? Because there's one down on the coast. Nobody's quite sure what it does, to be perfectly honest, because it's such a different camera.
Yeah.
And it's got a very big swing arm. It can be used on both sides of the road.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Maybe it goes both ways. Anyway, I'm driving, right?
Yes.
Towards this thing, and in my mind,
yes.
because it's been there for a long time, it's been there for, the smaller version of the camera, which was lower down, has been there for the best part of 8 years since I've lived there, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
And I've never been caught by it. Today, I'm driving towards it, and I see in the top right-hand corner of the windscreen, suddenly it flashing.
Yeah.
And this flash goes off. And I'm
was it a bright flash or was it a red light continually flickering?
No, it was a bright flash.
Bright flash. Oh, you might have been done then.
Well, I think so. And I was driving. I looked at my speedo, and I was doing about 24 miles an hour.
Right.
So, which would either tell you two things. One, it's pointing. It's doing people in either both directions, or certainly driving towards it.
Oh no, it's doing you. You were driving towards it.
And two, it's calibrated at 20 miles an hour.
Well, it looks like you've been done.
Maybe.
Yeah. Now
I shall await my fate.
Yeah, but I told you the one I drive past going home now is definitely calibrated to 20 miles an hour, and so I go at 19 miles an hour because I'm smarter than the average bear.
I do when I'm going past it the other way.
Yeah.
Because I assumed it did you from behind.
I think you've been found out, pal.
But there we are. I
should take a bit of trouble.
I should take my medicine. I put it down to the Porky Jinx.
The Porky Jinx. No, there's no such thing as a Porky Jinx. Now, I have a very, very important issue to talk to you about.
Do you?
And it's something which for years, you have not taken seriously and berated me.
What's that?
But have you seen this report that cats are the most dangerous form of domestic pet that we've ever had in the history of the world, and that in reality they are so dangerous they should be kept in cages?
Well, I've seen a report. I haven't read it in that much detail, to be honest. I saw it. It came across my desk earlier on.
They should be kept in cages. They are so vicious, they're so brutal, they're so nasty.
Seems a bit harsh,
no, it's not. Right, cats catch up to 55 million birds a year. They murder 55 million birds a year.
Is this in the UK?
This is in the UK.
Yeah.
This is in the UK.
All right.
Well, hang on. Let me have a look at this for a minute. Now, this book has been written by the director of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Centre in Washington.
All right.
I mean, Washington, D.C., obviously.
Yes.
And let me see.
So that must be a global
that's
figure.
A global figure. That's a global figure. Cats catch up to 55 million birds a year. The real figure of animals they kill a year around the world is 275 million.
Right.
Okay? The bird species most frequently targeted, house sparrows, blue tits, blackbirds and starlings, okay?
Yeah.
There are an estimated 7.4 million domestic cats in Britain alone, according to an answer supplied by the RSPCA in this country.
Well, the British experts involved in this particular story that I saw have said that this is absolute nonsense and there is no need to take these drastic measures against cats.
Well, I'm sorry, but there is, because this book has been written by a chap, as I say, from the Smithsonian. It's called Cat Wars. It's a new book. It's written by Mr. Morra, who is an ornithologist.
Yeah. So he's a bird lover.
He's a bird lover, yeah. And it categorises cats as an invasive species akin to Asian tiger mosquitoes. They carry dengue and West Nile viruses. Dengue, that's it, yeah.
Well, according to a man who's quoted on this very subject, John Bradshaw, who's the director of the Anthrozoology Institute at the University of Bristol, he says, in terms of the UK experience, I think there's very unfortunate advice coming through from the Americans on what we should do when there isn't a problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So he says that the cats in this country are not actually a scourge, and the birds that they prey on tend to be sick or weak.
Yep.
Which is the nature's pruning fork, isn't it?
Okay.
It's the way of things.
Okay, but the figures I've given you now, I've reclassified them. They're in England alone. In Great Britain alone, 55 million birds a year.
Right.
In Great Britain alone, 275 million animals a year. The worldwide
how many
figures,
birds are there in Great Britain then?
Well, a lot more than 275 million. There's probably a billion. There's well over a billion birds in this country.
Are there?
Well over.
Really?
Well over. Yeah, starlings alone.
Well, so 55 million is not much of a percentage then, is it?
What?
55 million is not much of a percentage then. If there's over a billion birds
It's 5%.
Yeah, well, that's nothing, is it?
5%.
Well, that's nothing.
Well, it's still 55 million birds.
Yeah, but it's nothing.
Well,
compared
I'm sorry,
to the number of birds that are in the hole out there.
Let me go and give you more figures. Worldwide, cats are killing between 1.3 and 4 billion birds a year, and 22 billion mammals, and hundreds of millions of reptiles and amphibians. I mean, it's horrendous.
I wish they'd kill some more rats, and then we wouldn't have so many.
The one thing that we have in this country about cats, which is unique to us and every other country in the world is not as lucky, we don't have many colonies of feral cats. But if we did, they should be gassed or poisoned or shot immediately.
What, this guy in America?
Yeah, definitely.
Has he been listening to you on the radio?
No. He says
this guy's clearly lost the plot.
He says that gangs of feral cats should be rounded up in America and put to death. I mean, instantly.
Yeah, but you see, in America, cats are a very different kettle of fish, aren't they? Because people have house cats. He's talking about feral cats. And in America, they probably have more feral cats.
Yeah,
they
do.
have bobcats, and they have slightly bigger wild cats and that kind of thing.
It's a bigger country.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is that you don't have so many feral cats in this country.
No, that's what I said to you. That one thing we have in this country, which you're lucky about, is we don't have gangs of feral cats.
Yeah.
Now, what he also says is there's a terrible disease, which is called toxoplasmosis, spread by parasites in cats, which kills off a lot of these animals. That, what I'm saying is cats don't just jump on birds and break their neck with a one swift bite. And by the way, when you live in,
I don't know why you hate cats so much.
Oh, they're nasty, vicious,
no, they're not.
Ruthless.
No, they're not. My sister's got a cat.
Evil
nice cat.
Killer cats.
That's not true.
And I tell you something.
Loads of people have got pet cats who are lovely.
Well, I've never seen one.
Well, cats don't like you very much because when they come anywhere near you, you electrocute them.
Well, I would. If a cat came and invaded my property again, I would give it the old the electric prong.
Up the jacksie.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not surprising that they're not very friendly
without
to you.
a shadow of a doubt.
It's not surprising, is it?
But what I'm saying is that sometimes I can be luxuriating in the penthouse of an evening.
Luxuriating?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Were you doing that tonight?
I took in a bit of TV to prepare myself for Porky Vision,
yes.
obviously.
Very well done.
And what you hear is, even early in the evening, the screaming and the wailing of animals have just been caught by a cat. You do, honestly.
I'm sure you're not living in some kind of some kind of torture
No, it's terrible. It's terrible, and they leap on birds and all sorts of things.
Well, that's what they do.
But I mean, sometimes it's foxes going after ducks and that sort of thing.
That's right. Have you ever heard a rabbit screaming in the middle of the night?
Well,
that's quite frightening.
How can you tell?
Because they have a particularly piercing scream when they're being eaten by a fox.
Anyway,
this is what goes on in the world around you. You can't stop that from happening. Everywhere you look, right? Yes. There's a spider eating a fly. There is a cat attacking a mouse.
Yes.
There is a bird of some type going after a hamster. This goes on all the time. It's part of the world around you.
Yeah, but the point is,
the time, by the way,
it has been concluded from this fantastic book written by this fantastic expert guy.
Well, I'm not sure he is.
Dr. Mara.
He sounds like a bit of a psychopath
from the Smithsonian. He said he just does not understand why cats are not kept on leads like dogs. They should be, because they're killers, and they have much more finely honed and developed killer instincts than a dog.
Yeah. I think this guy's lost the plot, and I think he's just trying to sell a book.
I don't.
How about this from Mark Avery, who's a writer, environmental campaigner, and former director of conservation at the RSPB, right? Which is the British version of the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds.
Yes.
He says that while moggies kill millions of birds in the UK, they are rarely threatened or endangered species. If we killed all the cats in the country or kept them indoors, there would be a few more birds out there, but not that many more, he says. The British countryside ought to be full of polecats and ghost hawks and all sorts of things that would eat these birds, right?
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, I just think cats are a really, really nasty element in society, and quite frankly, I can't see how the country could be a worse place if we just wiped cats out.
Well, that's a horrible thing
I mean,
to say.
literally, just wipe them out.
That will upset a lot of people.
Well, I'm sorry, but cats bring so much nastiness and so much
what about rats?
evil.
What about rats?
Well, they don't catch a lot of rats, do they?
No, but the point is there's more rats in the country than there are cats.
Well, I'd like to get rid of rats as well, but rats are more difficult to get rid of.
So you're just going to go for the things that are easy to get rid of?
Well, not easy to get rid of, but I mean, cats don't contribute much to the well-being of people's lives.
Well, what would you like them to do?
I'd like them to be less evil.
We want to drive trains, buses?
No, don't be ridiculous. I just want them to be less evil.
Less evil.
And attacking other species, which we like.
Right.
You know, little field mouse. You know, gets mangled up and eaten by a cat. It's horrible.
Well, that's what happens in life.
Well, you know.
Here we go. How about this from David? How many insects and worms do birds eat? You see, that's a very good question.
Yeah, but that's part of the food chain.
Well, so is cats eating mice.
No, it's not. It's not. Cats don't eat mice. Cats don't eat birds. They just kill them and leave them lying on the floor. You know that.
No, that's not true.
You know that.
They do eat them.
No.
Matt says this. I wish Porky would give it a rest about these cats. He's more of an unwanted pest than any cat in the world anywhere.
It's a bit harsh.
Let's talk sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Depay has his foot on the ball. He's going to roll it here for Rooney to try and smash. The referee is watching. Rooney does try and side-foot it towards the back post. Comes back to Carrick on the edge of the penalty area, and he lashes it into the top corner beyond Adam Smith. Taylor, who runs towards the corner flag, produces a cross into the box, and there's a bit of hesitation, and it's picked up by Hoskins. Shout for a penalty and given. And the penalty kick will be taken by Ravel, who scored in the game against West Bromwich Albion. He's placed the ball on the spot in front of the Manchester United supporters. He steps up right-footed. Goalkeeper goes the wrong way, and Northampton Town have equalised against Manchester United. Rashford's joining the attack now in the left-wing position. Tucks it back to the edge of the area, where Herrera is arriving, and he shoots and rifles it low and hard past Adam Smith. It's an excellent finish from Ander Herrera, who slides on his knees in celebration towards the United fans away to our right-hand side. It's an excellent goal from Manchester United's point of view. Picked up on this near side by Ander Herrera, who launches it high into the night sky. Rashford is chasing. The goalkeeper is going to have to come out of his penalty area. Oh, he's missed it completely, and Rashford has got hold of it. He's ran past him and slammed it into the empty net, and Manchester United have sealed passage into the fourth round of the EFL Cup with an absolute howler from the Northampton Town goalkeeper.
That was Sam Matterface, of course, earlier on Talk Sport this evening. Marcus Rashford scores that goal. I love the way he sort of, as he got to the goal, he didn't just tap it in.
He smashed the net.
Walloped it into the top of the net.
Yeah.
I like that about him.
You want to burst the net, yeah.
When do you think he's actually going to start a game, though? That's the thing.
Well, if I was the manager, I'd start him in the next game.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have started him in the last game and the game before that, because I think he's so exciting.
Yeah.
I think one of the advantages of having a guy like Marcus Rashford is that you put him in a bit like Rooney was introduced into the game, a bit like Jamie Varney, although he's much older, obviously, was introduced into the game. And what you do is, you for the first 12 or 14 games, the opposition that you're playing against don't realise what they're up against.
Yeah.
And I think the trouble with Marcus Rashford is he's no longer a surprise package, but he's not being used properly because he's only been brought on as subs. So the opposition are saying, well, hang on, he's very, very dangerous, but he's not starting a game. That's just great.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to worry about him until he comes on.
But also, it's one thing to know what he is, right? Like with Jamie Vardy last year, I mean, everybody knew he was very quick.
Yes.
But if they gave him the chance to be quick, there wasn't much they could do about it anyway.
No, I agree,
You know,
I agree.
It was a record crowd, by the way, at Northampton.
Yeah, I should think it was.
Six-field stadium, 7,700 798.
Okay, has that been their stadium forever?
I'm not sure, because they had some financial difficulties, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't think it had. I used to know Northampton's ground. Now, that's called Sixfields, is it?
Sixfields, yes.
So that's the new stadium, I'm sure.
Is it?
Because Northampton, during one period in the 60s or 70s, they went from 4-3-2-1 to 3-4
Right.
in about 8 seasons.
In as many seasons?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And their ground, because so that means that, the teams in the first division, as it was in those days, would have played there, and it was still a very small stadium. And I'm trying to remember what it was called. They've always been called the Cobblers because the shoes used to be made in Northampton. I don't think they're made in Northampton anymore.
Well, I mean, shoes are made all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They're usually made in China now, aren't they? In places in
well, I don't know
Taiwan
about that.
and places like that. They don't make any shoes in this country unless they're
like
very
churches
expensive.
are made here, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but very expensive sort of hand sewn shoes.
Yeah.
But they don't make like Clark shoes here anymore, do they?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know what they make.
No, I think they make.
I was funny enough. I was in a Cobbler's today.
Oh yeah, really? Doing what?
No, because it was actually a joint Cobbler's and key place.
Oh, I see. Yes.
I've got this underground. I've got this problem with my underground car park zapper.
Oh yeah.
And it hasn't worked for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I should try and get it fixed. So I took it in there to see if they could fix it. And a guy came in to get a pair of shoes repaired.
Right.
And I'd never seen anything quite like this. He had a pair of trainers, right? And he put the first trainer up on the top, and the guy's behind the thing, looking at it, and that one looked okay. And then he put the next one up, but it was just the sole. And the sole had completely come away from the top of the shoe.
Where's the top of the shoe?
Well, he then produced the top of the shoe out of the bag.
And wanted it stitched back on.
And said, "Can you stick this back on?"
It's rubbish. Did the guy tell him to get lost?
No, the guy said to him, well, he said, and he just kind of looked at him, because I don't think he'd have seen anything like it either. Because, I mean, if the whole shoe sole has come off, the whole bottom of it, you would think you just chuck it away.
Yeah, exactly.
But this guy wanted it fixed. And he said, well, I can glue it. He said, but the problem is, it's as soon as you start walking on it, it'll probably just come off again.
Well, it's funny you should say that about shoes. Maybe we've just had a shoe day. But driving home this morning, my headlights picked up an object in the road. And if I say objects in the road, I stop to clear them off.
Do you?
I do always, yes.
Well, why?
Because I hate litter.
Well, hang on, you didn't stop the time you hit that bottle of champagne and you got a puncture.
Ah, but I didn't know it was a bottle of champagne.
Well, did you see it, though?
No, I didn't see it, because a bottle of champagne is dark if the label's turned the other way. And it was. I didn't even see it, and it smashed, and there was no point in stopping because there was nothing to stop for.
So you come to a complete stop in the middle of the road?
No, I drove over it, and then I pulled in and I stopped.
Oh, I see.
So, and this is in my road. Yeah. So it's not, it's in my street.
So you're doing it as a sort of public service.
Absolutely, it's in my street. Yeah. So I got out, and it was a shoe. It was a perfectly good, unmarked
man's shoe, woman's shoe.
It was a casual shoe, like made of canvas with a straw sole.
Yes.
You got it?
Yeah, but it was a man's shoe then.
It was a man's shoe. By the size of it, it was. It was a size sort of 10 or something like that.
Right.
So
they could have fallen out somebody's car, maybe.
Well, this is a strange thing, you see. I thought, because, I have the investigative brain of a journalist, and I thought...
Columbo-esque.
Yeah, well, that's right. I thought, why would there be one shoe in the middle of the road?
Yes.
So guess what?
What did you do? Look for another one?
Yeah.
Did you find it?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. It was
really?
It was over a garden wall.
Ah.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
Yes, exactly.
So what did you surmise from that, then?
Well, I've no idea what could have been going on for somebody to lose a pair of shoes, and they're a good pair of shoes. It wasn't like,
Could it be a burglar running away?
I've no idea. But anyway, what I carry around in the boot of my car are loads of plastic gloves. You know what? So I can pick up litter when I want to.
Plastic gloves?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
What, you mean like the ones that surgeons wear?
No.
Or the ones you steal from a petrol station?
From petrol stations.
You've stolen them, haven't you?
Yeah, of course I have,
You've stolen gloves from petrol stations?
Well, I don't steal them. What happens is,
you do steal them.
If I'm filling my car up, I always get a plastic glove.
Right.
Because I don't like to get diesel, which is particularly full of odour, onto my hand.
Yes, it can be grubby, yes.
And then when I finish, I peel off the glove, put it in the bin.
Right.
But then
then you take another 7.
No, I take 20. I take a real handful and whip them out.
Why?
And I put it in the boot of my car so that I can.
That's outrageous. Why don't you just buy some?
Well, you can't buy them.
Yeah, you can.
No,
you buy
honestly,
them in the supermarket.
They're not made of rubber. They're made of cellophane.
Yeah, but you can
buy.
Yeah, but you can buy those.
The ones that you're talking about are like surgeon's gloves, and it takes an age to peel them on and off your hands, right? And actually, they're quite expensive.
Well, you could just
have to
drive
buy
with
those.
them on, couldn't you?
No, don't be ridiculous.
Like driving gloves.
But the ones that are made of cellophane in petrol stations are perfect for picking up litter. So I have a load of those in the back of my car. So I went and got a pair of my cellophane gloves, and I disposed of the shoes in a nearby bin.
Oh, right. Somebody else's bin.
Yeah, exactly, because it's not rubbish that was.
But maybe they fell out of somebody's
property
bag or something like that.
Well, I don't know.
But how did you find the shoe over the fence, though?
I looked around.
How high was the fence, is what I'm saying?
Oh, it wasn't a fence, it was a wall. It was about 3 feet high.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Because beyond that was a hedge, you see.
Yeah.
And that's where I found it. So
how bizarre. That's quite weird, isn't it?
Yes, it is quite weird.
And were they relatively new shoes?
They were new. They weren't rubbish. They weren't grubby. In fact, funny enough, they didn't even look wet, and there had been rain yesterday. So had they been out all day or something, it would have stained it.
Maybe you should have just put them together and left them on the top of the wall in case there's somebody was going to come back and look for them.
Yeah, but you see, then you might attract vagrants who haven't got shoes with holes in them, and they go and take them.
Well, why not? If they're walking around and need a pair of shoes, then there's a nice pair of shoes for them.
I'm not sure about that. But anyway,
that would have been the compassionate thing to do.
Not really. There is no compassion when it comes to trash and rubbish. And let me tell you this, by the way.
By the way, I've got a couple of notes here just on Northampton. Tim says Northampton Town used to play at the county ground.
Of course he did.
Which was a 3-sided stadium.
Oh, that's right.
Shared with the cricket club.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, on Welford Road.
Northamptonshire County Cricket Club. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Anyway, let me tell you this. Down the bottom of my road, a load of, for the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months, a load of vans have been parked, and they're all white van type things.
Yeah, well, like transit vans.
Transit vans, all that kind of stuff. And these guys are subcontractors to a very big building development going on 200 yards away on the main road.
Right.
But they can't park on the main road. So they park in my street.
Yeah.
And
didn't your street get parking bays recently?
It's got parking bays, and they're quite expensive. They really are. I think it's cost them about £8 or £9 a day.
So they have to pay for that, presumably?
They have to pay for that, presumably. But do you know what really, really gets my goat? These guys are skilled artisans. They're diamond cutters. These are the guys who cut, paving stones and tiles, or they're carpenters,
plasterers, maybe
plasterers, welders, all this kind of stuff. Okay,
you've seen the time, by the
way. Yeah, but don't worry. This is an important story.
I'm worried about the time.
And do you know what they do? They sit in their vans, eat sandwiches, drink Coca-Cola, and deposit all the rubbish on the road below them. It is an utter disgrace.
That is disgraceful.
Packets of cigarettes.
That's terrible.
Empty sandwich wrappers.
You should complain.
Well, I've complained once or twice and got a right mouthful, you know. And all I say is, why don't you take it back to where you live, pal, and put it in your street, okay?
No, but I mean, complain to the people that are running the project.
Well, it's so huge, I wouldn't know to complain to.
Well, I'm sure you could find out. Anyway, we've got to stop because otherwise we're going to run out of time. This is Talk Sport. There's an awful lot of people sending in pictures of their lovely, fluffy-looking moggies sitting at home.
Okay.
There's one here that's just sort of lying in the sun. Lovely-looking cat. This says from Matt. He says, here's Martin, and he's very offended by the comments of old Porky. Alan says, I have one of these vicious cat creatures. What is Porky's recommendation to ensure I'm safe?
Well, tell you what you do. You should put your cats on a lead. You should have a cage to keep them in the house so they can't get out and destroy all the birds in the garden, that kind of stuff. And I'm also told about a device which you should put around a cat's neck, because did you know that cats are so clinical in the way they kill birds that they have to actually strike at a particular angle to get the bird's neck, you see what I mean? And what this device that they've invented does is you fit it around a cat's neck and it stops its paws from getting to the right angle.
Well, just put a bell around their neck and that has the same effect because the birds hear them coming.
Not always, apparently.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Do they?
Well, yeah, unless the bird is injured. But if the bird's injured, then in that case, they're kind of fair game, I would say.
Well, I'm not even sure
that's even what the RSPB people say.
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Stephen says this, if I caught Porky electrocuting one of my cats, a boxing fight with MG would be the least of his worries.
Yeah, well, that could well be. I mean, look, I don't want to be cruel to animals, but
obviously.
No, I don't. I don't. But I fear that cats are incredibly cruel to all sorts of animals. To little field mouse, to all sorts of birds, to other even dogs and things like that. And I just think that sometimes the owners of cats and those who pursue the cat lobby, so to speak, and protect the cat lobby are not that aware of the damage that cats do. 55 million birds a year being killed is terrible.
But as I said, it's a very small proportion of the numbers out there generally. So, I don't think you should keep go banging on about being cruel to cats because people get very upset. There's people who have cats. There's people who are dog people or cat people, right? Yeah. I've had cats in my life, and I've also had dogs. Yeah. And, I love them both equally, actually.
I don't know what people see as the affectionate characteristic of a cat.
Some cats are very affectionate.
Yeah, but I think they're sly cats. Yeah, I think when you're looking at a cat, that cat is saying, I'm going to turn you over. I'm going to make your life centre around my needs, and you're going to realise that. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble.
You couldn't have that. Now, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you remember a newspaper that opened in 1987 called The News on Sunday?
I do, actually.
Do you?
It's based in the northwest.
It was based in Manchester, I think.
That's right,
It was somewhere up in that part of the world.
Yeah.
It was basically it was an idea brought out by John Pilger, who was a very lefty sort of journalist, who wrote for the Mirror, funnily enough, in Piers Morgan's time, when he was brought back from the dead. Almost.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Pilger, before Piers Morgan's time, I think going back to the 60s or 70s, Pilger was the man who uncovered the whole horrific story of Pol Pot and Year Zero.
Yeah, exactly. In Cambodia.
In Cambodia, yeah.
That's right. He was an Australian guy, actually.
He was, yeah.
And still writes today. But he came up with this idea that there should be a left-wing national newspaper.
Yes.
Because he believed that it was just after the miners' strike. And
yes.
Margaret Thatcher was running the country and the miners had been beaten into submission. And so they decided to basically open what they thought would be a fair newspaper for the left. Right, but it didn't work.
But we knew it wouldn't work. Newspapers full of good news, I'm afraid, never work.
Yeah.
And that the whole purpose of that paper, apart from it representing the left-wing political persuasion, was that why should newspapers be full of bad news all the time? We're full of good news.
Yes.
And of course nobody bought it.
Yeah, nobody bought it. And the problem is that it was started by a guy called Henry Stewart, who wrote a piece today in The Guardian, right?
Yes.
And it was brought to my attention by one of our listeners, and he said, you guys might want to have a look at this and remember it.
Right.
And the reason I remember it is because I was in New York at the time.
Right.
And they commissioned me to do a load of stuff.
Right, yeah.
And I said, well, that's fine, yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. But they never paid me. I was never paid for everything that I did, which amounted to not a massive amount of money, but it was about $500 at the time.
That's absolutely disgraceful.
Isn't that disgraceful?
Because they'd probably turn around in the end and say, well, we're not a profit-making organisation.
Well, they were meant to be. I mean, the point is
they weren't, were they? I thought they were meant to...
Well, this guy writes this piece because he's going to a conference.
Right, okay.
Actually, I thought you might be interested in this conference because you could go to it as well.
Where is it?
I can't actually explain the words that I use to describe it because it's a bad word. But it's basically screw-up night is what they're calling it.
Oh, yeah.
Except with a different word.
Yes.
It's where entrepreneurs discuss professional failure.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's taking place at the Impact Hub in King's Cross.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
why do you think I would want to go there?
Well, because of your internet television venture.
Well,
you could say you could learn. People could learn from that.
Well, to be honest, you're not wrong there. I mean, I do belong in that sort of category of failed business person.
But there's plenty of
for
people
that
who have done
particular
it.
venture.
There's no reason, as much as I mock you for it, there's no reason to be ashamed of it because plenty of very successful people have had these terrible failures. But this guy said that they needed to sell 1.2 million copies a week in order to make money. And they went to the city for investment, right? Yeah. And the city investors said, well, you're going to need to raise about $6.5 million to get this going.
Yes.
Where's your business plan? Where's the profit going to come from? And they said, well, we haven't really thought about making much of a profit.
No.
And so the city said, well, we're not bothered about investing then.
Yeah.
So they had to go and get money from the trade unions and all sorts of local councils.
I mean, when you think that the trade unions, and one particular trade union, is it Unison? I mean, almost single-handedly funds the whole of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
You see how much money the trade unions can raise,
Right.
and they can easily raise enough money to run a publication which was basically be a propaganda sheet for them.
Yeah.
Now, many people would say, well, what's wrong with that? The Daily Express for years has been a propaganda sheet for the Tories
or
something like that.
Yeah, they could make that argument.
And they could make that argument. But I think as I remember it, that paper was it was based on the same principle as The Guardian.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to make money as a
But
profit.
it actually wasn't as good as The Guardian.
No, he wasn't anything like as professional as
Anyway,
The
guess
Guardian.
how long it took them to lose $6.5 million?
Yeah, go on.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's in 1987. That was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's £1 million a week, of course, yeah.
I mean, that's better than the New Day. I mean, the New Day lasted 9 weeks, I think, didn't they?
New Day lasted 9 weeks, but again, the projections were so ridiculous. New Day had a break-even figure just to make sure it covered all its costs of $70,000 a day.
Right.
I think it was selling about 16.
Right.
And then it went down to about 6, and then to 4 or something like that. I mean,
by the way,
whoever did the research should be fired.
Have you seen, that paper that's been launched in Scotland called The National, which is a paper which is sort of basically to support the SNP's view of the world.
Right.
It's a sort of pro-independence newspaper.
Right.
It's now published by the Herald Group, right, who publish the Evening Times and the Herald and all that sort of thing, the Sunday Herald.
Yes.
And at its peak during the kind of referendum period, it was selling 40,000 a day.
Right.
Do you know how many it's selling now?
It used to sell what?
40,000.
Right, and what you're asking me what to sell now. So I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 4.
Well, 14.
14.
14,000.
Yeah.
Because they can't be making any money.
What was its break-even figure? Do we know?
I don't know.
No, but it can't be. And I totally agree. It can't be.
And I mean, all these little niche newspapers that people keep sort of inventing, they just keep dying off.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Apart from the New European, which actually seems to be doing all right.
European, I hope it's doing well. In fact, funny enough, I saw a report from some like dinner or some meeting or some conference last night in which, and I have no idea whether this is true or not, but if it is, it's against the trend.
Yeah.
The editor of The Independent, which is now totally a digital paper, it is no longer published.
I saw that report as well.
No published, saying it's been a magnificent success. Well, in that case, he must share his secrets with the rest of the publishing world around the globe who still can't make it work.
Yeah, right.
But he can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we may have to investigate the figures slightly more.
Exactly.
It's Mr. Rajan, I think, isn't it?
Is that it?
Who's the editor
Is that it?
of that?
Yeah. But he said it's been a terrific success, and then you've got to find out what's the definition of success, because some of the biggest newspaper groups in the world have nearly gone to the wall through trying to make digital on. I mean, The Guardian, for instance, has hired something like nearly 400 journalists in places like Australia and America to become the biggest digital newspaper in the world.
Right.
They've all got to be sacked because the losses it's run up are like 60 million quid or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they've got to start cutting back.
Yes.
And all that was done by a chap who's not even in the job anymore. He set all this up. A man called Mr. Rusbridger, and if my figures are incorrect, then I apologise. But it was certainly hundreds of digital journalists.
Oh, it was. No, 400 is the number I was.
Yeah, and the losses ran into tens of millions, right? And then Mr. Rusbridger went off to be like the chancellor of some university college at Oxford or Cambridge, and was then.
And they've appointed the new editor's come from America, hasn't she? Didn't she come from? She was the head of online in America or something. I think
it was something like that.
Yeah.
But the point is, this sort of what can you call it? Disastrous policy was set to go on because Mr. Rusbridger, who did all this when he was editor of The Guardian, was then set to step up to become chairman of the Scott Trust, which controls the papers.
But he got blocked, didn't he?
And the new editor came along, looked at the plan he'd put into place, and saw that he wanted to perpetuate it, and said, we won't have a paper this time next year if this goes on.
Exactly.
Mr. Rusbridger retired into academica, I think.
Yes, I think he did. Now, here's one from Chris. He says, classic Porky. Every other word is about his penthouse or his holidays. Then he says, what? Have you seen how expensive those gloves are?
Well,
there is a bit of there is something about that, actually.
Yeah, I see.
For the same reason as when you go and buy things at the supermarket, you're always trying to buy the cheap things when half the stuff you've got in your life is incredibly expensive.
Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Listen, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about next, right, tonight, because it's incredibly good. You know, I get sent all these books to review and all that kind of stuff. A fantastic book on the Paddy Hearst affair.
Oh, yes.
She was
the Black Panthers and all that.
Well, they weren't Black Panthers. It was the Symbionese Liberation Army, and nobody ever found out what they were.
Yeah,
who
but
they
were
were.
The Black Panthers kind of part of it as well? At
well,
one point.
No, not really. But I'll tell you all about it. It's fantastic. She was the granddaughter of the richest man in America, Randolph Hearst,
on
whom the film
who owned newspapers, of course.
Who owned newspapers, on whom the film Citizen Kane was based.
Right.
She got kidnapped by a bunch of nutters, but then she became one of the nutters.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a fantastic story.
It is a great story. Yeah, a couple of people have sent pictures in of Jamie Varney. Who bears quite a big resemblance to that guy who was on the buses.
That's right, Reg Varney.
Reg Varney, you have to say. Now, we're going to talk to Gordon Hill as well. I think we managed to track him down.
Got to talk
we'll find out from him what's going on at Manchester United. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
I think Jacob's got the right idea about your shoe story. He says, leave a shoe in the middle of Mike Parry Street, wait for a while, and then get yourself a nearly new fastback Mercedes.
Yeah, well, actually...
did that not cross your mind? That, if you stopped for something like that, you might end up getting carjacked?
Well, funny enough, it didn't, because it's a very quiet street, and particularly at sort of 4:30 in the morning. But you're absolutely right to be aware of those things, and I want to thank that correspondent for pointing out to me the stupidity of leaving a car unlocked at any time of the day or night.
I hope he didn't leave the engine running.
No, it didn't.
Oh, good.
No.
OK. Now, Gordon Hill is here, former Manchester United player, of course. We haven't spoken to Gordon for a very long time. Not since, in fact, Jose Mourinho was appointed, I don't think. So let's find out what he thinks about what's going on up at Old Trafford. Gordon, very good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Nice to speak to you.
And you as well, Gordon.
Absolutely. Now, I would have been expecting you to be full of praise and full of the joys of spring that Louis van Gaal finally was pushed off out of the way at Old Trafford and Jose Mourinho was hired. But things have not particularly improved at Manchester United since he's been there.
No, it seems to have faltered. We saw, shall we say, the first three games was okay. It looks a bit exciting. It looks like he's going to do something. And then we saw the game against City, and then we saw the final, and then we saw shall we say, the Watford game, and it was like, holy moly, the wheels are starting to come off. But, then he comes out with a statement about saying that, the pressure. Well, I can't buy it. I just don't buy it. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. We've got the potential. We've got the young players, but I don't think we've got balance, and I don't think we've got coordination. I don't think there's coordination in the team at the moment. I think players are playing for themselves. And I think what we did, we got a result last night or tonight, as we said. But to me, it was a case of they're still trying to find their feet. And thank God it's at the beginning of the season, Mike, because if they don't, we could be in terrible peril. Because
big game this weekend as well, right, against Leicester.
Well, yeah, Leicester are running high. I mean, they had a great result at the weekend. We've got to look at Man City. We've got Man City in the League Cup. That's whether it's a League Cup or whether it's a game on a Sunday or a Saturday or a normal game, it's a derby. It's the bragging rights are coming out again. So I don't think both teams are going to play lightly to this one. But I just look at it now, and I'm just, the team's been changed. We've got to have played the young boy. And you guys know as much as I do how I feel about Rashford being put in the side. The kid has proved that he goes in there. He plays with Abramovich. You had Carrick playing alongside Pogba. Pogba needs somebody to be the holding midfielder because he loves to roam. So you're looking at a side at the moment that are trying to find their feet, and all of a sudden 3 defeats, Jose. But what damages me most, Mike, and I think you guys will pick this up, is that it comes out and says it's the 2-year scarring from Louis van Gaal. Yeah. And I think that's a very scolding and detrimental remark coming out of somebody. That should never have been coming out of his mouth. And that, to me, just shows the arrogance is still there, and he should never have blamed Louis van Gaal, because Louis van Gaal never blamed David Moyes, didn't blame Alex Ferguson for hiring him. So to come out with that at this stage is saying, well, keep picking on people and saying, well, I did have 2 years of scarring from the last manager. Yeah. I can't buy that. I think that's horrible.
Yeah, but it's a typical sort of thing which managers do. And I have to say, Gordon, I was shocked when Jose Mourinho did this, because I've always regarded a manager as a bit of a weakling the minute he starts saying things like, of course, this squad were not fit when I got here, and I've got to make them fit and give them, the sort of discipline that they need. Now, that's one point you've made. The other question, Gordon, which nobody seems to be able to figure out, is why Jose will not start Marcus Rashford. He was brilliant again tonight in the game when he came on. Why isn't this boy starting on a regular basis? What is Jose Mourinho frightened of?
$64 million question, Mike. I mean, to me, the kid has proved himself. He's gone out there. He's holding his own. He's playing very well with Ibrahimovic. He started to look as though he's going to score goals. He's not afraid to get stuck in. He's not afraid to take players on. Yet there's that still holding this kid back. I don't know what he's holding this kid back for. This kid's got to be put into the front runner. He's got to be put in the England team. He's got to be put into the Man United team. Because otherwise, if we don't believe in our youngsters, then we're going to be falling out all over the place. And Jose, where's he going to get another youngster like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you've got a youngster like that, I would have thought, Gordon, you'll know better than me, you play him the minute you realise he's an emerging talent so that the opposition for a whole season aren't aware of him. But if you keep just playing him for 20 minutes and 30 minutes, the opposition that you're going to play in 6 weeks' time are getting a very good idea of what he's all about.
Also, he seems to score nearly every time he plays, doesn't he? Yeah. So, I mean, what's the hold-up?
That's right, mate. I mean, if you look at the way that the Rashford's come on, he's scored goals, he's created goals, he's been a nuisance to people. As any manager would say, if you become a nuisance for defenders, you are a good player. We've looked at the front runner at Chelsea. He's a pain in the butt. He's an aggravation. He's a rash. He's all over you. He'll complain. He'll fight. He'll spit. He scores goals, but he gets a game every week. Rashford's doing exactly the same and not as vicious, but he's getting stuck in. He's a young player. He wants to show his fight. He wants to say, I'm warranted a game now. I proved myself, and then you're seeing other players come in, and you're saying, "Hey, Jose, get him in the side, son. You're not scoring otherwise."
No, exactly right. But the other problem, Gordon, as well, is that I know it's early in the season, but you say there's an imbalance in the team, and that hasn't really been rectified. I mean, it's not likely to be rectified anytime soon, by the looks of it. And I mean, Manchester United are going to fall out of any sort of contention, are they not, for the top four if they don't start sort of, getting further up the table?
Well, I think the next thing he'll do is he'll start complaining about he's got to buy players. And that goes back to the shoes. That goes back to the purse strings again, and it goes back to what he said in the summer. Well, I didn't get the players that I wanted to get. Well, hold on a minute. You've been 4 months out of the game. You got the contract way before you got the United job. You wasn't in the press. You could go around and see everybody that you wanted to, nice and privately, without being tagged in and saying the United boss is here to look at this player.
Yeah.
You've looked at every single player, and you've come up with players. So you've got you've got your food. Now you've got to show us what you can do with it and stop complaining.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how that all works out. Gordon, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Gordon.
Gordon, who was never a big fan of Louis van Gaal, to be fair, has actually been quite critical of Jose Mourinho there as well. Now, here's an interesting fact for you. This is from Tim. It says Northampton Town used to be managed by Graham Carr, who's now the scout at Newcastle United, and also the father of Alan Carr, the comedian.
Alan Carr?
Yeah, you know who Alan Carr
Which
is,
one's
don't you?
he?
Alan Carr, the guy who's on TV.
Alan Carr.
The comedian. Do you not know Alan Carr?
No, I know Jimmy Carr, don't I?
Jimmy Carr?
Is it Jimmy Carr?
Yeah, well, there's an Alan Carr, I guess, who's a comedian as well.
Well, no, Jimmy Carr is very famous, isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't Jimmy Carr the guy who makes jokes about disabled soldiers?
Well, he did that,
and all
yes.
That kind
he got
of
into
stuff.
a bit of trouble, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Jimmy
Well, I think
Carr.
Alan Carr's a comedian as well.
Is there an Alan Carr? You sure?
I believe so. Well, I mean, this is what I'm reading to you from Tim.
Yeah, but it's no good you reading me a piece of fact that you don't even know about yourself.
Well, I'm reading tweets out to you because they come in from people who are listening to the show.
Yeah, but then I said
but
to you...
there is an Alan Carr. Yes, I'm sure there is.
Is there?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know there was, so you see what I mean?
Just because you don't know who he is, that doesn't mean he doesn't exist.
No, but you don't know who he is, and you're reading out the tweets
no, I'm saying to you, he's
in total ignorance.
I'm saying to you, he's a comedian.
He's a comedian, is he? OK, what jokes has he told?
Well, I don't know what jokes he's told. He's doing a world tour as we speak.
You know, I don't even know if this guy exists.
Alan Carr. That's him.
Alan Carr.
That's the one you're thinking of, isn't it?
No, Jimmy Carr's the one I'm thinking of.
All right, well, Alan Carr is on TV a lot.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I do recognise his face.
You're doing Porky Vision tonight.
Yeah, I do recognise his face.
Aren't you?
Yeah, but I didn't know his name was Alan Carr, to be honest. But anyway, there we go.
And here's one from James, who says, I didn't really get a chance to ask Gordon Hill this. He said, could you please ask Gordon Hill why there's a train station in Hertfordshire named after him? It's always puzzled me, that.
What?
Is there a train station called Gordon Hill?
Gordon Hill?
Yeah.
Well, that must be a play on words.
There's a train station called Strawberry Hill.
Yes, Strawberry Hill. In fact, I had a girlfriend who lived very close to that once. Yeah, used to get the train to Strawberry Hill.
Strawberry Hill forever.
Which is very near Twickenham.
Yeah.
And a pub next door to the station, which I spent a lot of time in when I would sometimes, delay my arrival at her place, was called the Pope's Grotto.
The Pope's Grotto?
Pope's Grotto. And it was nothing to do with the Pope, who is the Bishop of Rome. It was a pub dedicated to Alexander Pope.
Alexander Graham Pope.
Yeah, could be, yeah. Do you know who he was?
That was Alexander Graham Bell, wasn't it?
No, Alexander Pope.
Alexander Pope, I think so, yeah. Who was he?
He was some sort of famous writer.
Yeah.
Or some... Do you want to look him up? Because he was a famous writer or a famous sort of philosopher.
You're not thinking of Alexander Chancellor?
No. This guy's Pope. It's called the Pope's Grotto, this pub. And it's right on the banks of the River Thames at Strawberry Hill, just out of Twickenham, just off the high street, so to speak.
Yeah. There used to be a teacher training college there as well.
Yes, I think there still is.
Is there?
But I think it's now part of the University of Middlesex.
Oh, okay.
And you go...
There's an Alexander Pope Hotel.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, now that could be it.
18th century English poet.
There you go. See, I knew it.
Best known for a satirical verse.
Satirical, that's right. He was a satirist.
And also for his translation of Homer.
Translation of Homer. But you see, it's all coming true now.
Yeah.
Homer was an Italian, was a Latin
Greek.
guy. Oh, Greek.
No,
he was a Greek guy. That's right. Yeah, ancient Greek, yeah. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff.
Yeah, I've got
now,
it.
You very much upset Becky down in New Zealand, you know, who has a couple of cats.
Well...
She says, Mike Parry's poster is coming down. Felix used to look at it. That's one of the cats.
Yeah.
And the cats are now not allowed any longer to listen to the podcast.
Oh, OK. Well, that's all right. Who's that? Becky?
Yeah.
Becky, I'm afraid that the truth sometimes hurts. And the point is, cat owners have to take a very much more responsible attitude to owning their cat to save the 55 million birds. I wonder how many birds in New Zealand are killed a year by cats. Because in New Zealand, they've got even more birds than we have.
Well, they've got bigger birds as well.
They've got bigger birds.
So maybe they're not so frightened of the cats.
Got the dodo.
I've had a couple of communications to say that there's not as many as 1 billion birds in this country.
Oh, there is, easy.
So 55 million can't be the UK figure.
No.
Because if that's true, it means that cats are wiping out a third of the British bird population every year.
I believe the bird population of the United Kingdom is something close to 3 or 4 billion.
Well, not according
literally.
to...
because when you think about the Highlands and the islands, think about how many birds there are there.
Yeah, I know that. But, I mean, you're talking about an awful lot of birds.
Well, sure.
I mean, I've got a figure here, which is from a piece from BBC's Nature section on the old online scenario.
Right.
Saying that the UK bird population has declined by 44 million since 1966.
And stands at what now?
And it now stands at something around about... where are we? It was around 210 million, so it's now like 160 or something.
I don't think it is.
So if cats are killing 55 million birds, that means a third of the bird population is being killed by cats.
Exactly.
Which can't be right.
You're absolutely right. And also, I reckon I see 1 million birds every weekend, but I'm down on the coast, to be honest. There's loads and loads of birds in this country.
You've been busy, haven't you, lately?
Yeah, indeed.
Travelling to see you in England from Bonnie, Scotland, says James.
Oh, yeah?
So I guess he might be coming to Whitley
Going to Whitley Beer.
Coming up on... there's a quiz, of course, coming up on the northeast of England tomorrow on
night.
the show. Coming up a little bit later, though, it's time for Porky Vision. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Mark Murray, the Australian inventor of the ham dog. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
Then she paid $10 for a 10-cent hat and got some store-bought cat food for a mean-eyed cat. When I give her $10 more for a one-way ticket, she was mad as she could be. Then I bet 10 more that if she ever left, she'd come crawling back to me.
Mean-eyed cat.
Mean-eyed cat,
like Johnny Cash.
Yeah, well, I think they're mean-eyed. I don't want cat lovers to start hating me, by the way. You've got to remember...
I think maybe a bit late for that.
No. I think you've got to remember that my concern is for society as a whole.
I see.
And, if cats are not improving people's lives, then it's a worry. Now then, listen, let me tell you about a book I got. It's fantastic. It's
this is the Paddy Hearst thing, right?
The Paddy Hearst. It's called American Heiress, right?
Yeah.
This was written by a guy called Jeffrey Toobin. This is a fantastic book, and just to paint the background to it, Paddy Hearst was the granddaughter of Randolph Hearst, who was America's most famous ever newspaper owner, proprietor, publisher.
One of its wealthiest ever men as well.
I mean, before the days of things like computers and Bill Gates, he was probably the richest man in America.
Yes.
And he lived in a castle. He had a
it was called the Hearst Castle.
The Hearst Castle. He had it built and all that. And his granddaughter was Paddy Hearst. Now, Paddy Hearst goes off to Santa Barbara University, okay? Which, wasn't a particularly great university, but she wasn't a particularly brilliant student or anything like that.
Well, she really had to be, did she, I suppose?
No, not really at all.
Inherit billions.
Yeah. Anyway, a bunch of complete sort of DOS heads called the Symbionese Liberation Army. And they sound like, they're a political movement. There were never any more than 9 of them, right?
Yeah.
They suddenly decided on occasion, we've read in the local paper she's there.
Yeah.
By the way, the Symbionese...
Didn't they rob banks and stuff as well?
Well, they tried to do all that, but the Symbionese Liberation Army, they weren't protecting the Symbionese because there aren't any Symbionese.
Right.
Symbion is defined as a word in the dictionary of a collection of, sane-thinking, left-wing people in defence of racism, which is all very worthy and all that, but they turn to violence with guns and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So they call themselves a Symbionese. So they don't kidnap her, okay?
This was also around the time that there were all these weird groups like the
Absolutely.
Bader-Meinhof gang in Germany and proper sort of terrorist groups.
And even Manson and his mob, parading up and around the West Coast and all that. Anyway, the guy who's the head of the Symbionese Liberation Army came up with this plot, and his name was Donald DeFreeze.
Okay.
Not Donald D. Duck, Donald DeFreeze.
Okay.
It's a ridiculous name. And
presumably that was his real name.
It was his real name.
DeFreeze.
D-E... capital F-R-E-E-Z-E.
Right.
And that was his real name.
Right.
And he decided they're going to kidnap her, okay? So they kidnap her from a room in Santa Barbara University where she's sitting there with her boyfriend, whose name was Chris Weed.
Okay.
I mean, some very unusual people in this in this plot.
You're not going to just tell me all these people had weird names.
No,
that's what makes it weird.
No, but this is the strangest story in the world.
Yeah.
So when they burst through the door, and they were all so incompetent, they didn't actually know how
But they were armed, though, weren't they?
Yeah, but they didn't know how to use the guns.
Well, you say that, but I mean, if armed men burst into a lecture theatre, you're going to be quite frightened, aren't you?
Well, anyway, this is what happened. So Chris Weed said, please, don't hurt me, leave me alone. Take everything. Take her if you want.
Really?
And he ran out the back door.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so he wasn't a hero at the moment.
He wasn't exactly a hero at the moment, no.
So they take her, right, and they, bundle her into the back of a car, and they drive her off to some, downtrodden neighbourhood or something like that.
Did they not take her to San Francisco or something?
No, they took her locally, apparently, first, moved her around a bit and all that. But anyway, over the course of the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, she suddenly decided that instead of them being the bad guys, they were the good guys, and the rest of the world was bad. And then she started sleeping with members of the gang.
Yeah.
She slept with at least 2 of them, and she became a member of the Symbionese Liberation Army.
She started to believe in what they wanted as well, right?
Well, apparently she did. So the next thing is, a few months later, they try some sort of bank raid or something, okay?
Yeah.
And they were all totally incompetent. They used to pick the wrong bank and the days it was closed and all this kind of stuff.
But wasn't there also a thing about how when she was first kidnapped, the police didn't really do anything about it because they weren't really sure what to do about it?
Well, they thought it was a joke because these guys were so amateurish. But then, of course, Randolph Hearst, being the most powerful man in America in terms of the media, said, I'd like my granddaughter returned.
Yeah.
So then they put hundreds of cops on the case, but it was too late. You're absolutely right. They'd run off somewhere.
Right.
She then appears in a beret holding a machine gun in some raid and starts shouting, society is corrupt and, I'm now a warrior for the Symbionese Liberation Army. I'll blow your mother effing heads off if you don't get down and give me the money and all this kind of stuff.
It's a famous picture, that, isn't it?
It's a very famous picture, yeah. And she then becomes a fully fledged member. Now, the problem was that at that point, Randolph Hearst said, look, I'm getting a bit fed up with all this. Go and get her.
Right.
The police then tracked this lot down, okay? And can you believe that in the siege in which they recovered her, the police unleashed 53,000 rounds of ammunition.
53,000?
Yeah, they nearly took the house apart just through the number of bullets that hit it, okay?
Right.
So they had her back. So she then is taken into custody. She's tried because she's been pictured with a machine gun shooting at people and all this, and she gets 35 years in jail.
Because I think the gang, as a general sort of group, were also charged with murdering a couple of people. I think
the 2 members of the gang who murdered anybody were shot dead by the police.
Right.
So that got rid of that.
But they must have taken some of that blame onto her then and said that's why she got 35 years.
Absolutely, she got 35 years. The problem was the minute that she appeared in court, she changed her story. I said I was brainwashed.
Yeah.
I couldn't help it. They did Stockholm Syndrome tricks on me and all this kind of stuff.
Which is possible as well.
And I was used as a sex slave, whereas previously she'd said she'd fallen in love with 2 members of the gang. She's now a sex slave. She'd been brainwashed. She had been locked up in rooms, blindfolded, and political messages had been played into her ears through headphones.
Sensory deprivation and all that sort of thing.
And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, old Randolph Hearst got on to all his mates, in the judiciary and said it's a bit unfair. So they then reduced her 35-year sentence to 7 years.
Right.
And then
what happened to her after that then?
Well, they had another review of it,
and
it was reduced to 2 years,
right?
And then they let her go,
right? And so she went back to live a normal sort of spoiled life of a rich grandfather's.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
So she's still alive then?
She's still alive.
So this book's come out just as a sort of historical reference.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I think it's like 50 years from the day or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the amazing thing is, because they had to let her go, they had to let all the members of the old Symbionese Liberation Army go.
Yeah.
So one of them became a business consultant, another one's a private investigator, and a third guy now runs a flooring company in San Francisco.
Well, it was a very odd time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
People joined all sorts of strange groups. I mean, it's like the hippie movement. I mean, people got involved with Timothy Leary and all that.
That's right,
sort of, gave everything up and went and lived on the top of a hill, top of a mountain and all that kind of thing. And now that's all over. They've just gone back to sort of regular, normal life.
That's right. Now, Steve Weed, right?
Yeah, what's happening to Steve?
the guy who ran out, he is now, believe it or not, an estate agent in Palo Alto.
Palo Alto.
Which, of course, is Silicon Valley's favourite commune, isn't it? You know, we're all... I mean, even the guy Zuckerberg lives there, doesn't he? And,
I think so,
and all that kind of stuff.
The Facebook man, yeah.
Meanwhile, Paddy Hearst, the former Symbionese Liberation Army recruit, has started breeding fancy dogs, and last year, one of her dogs won first prize in the toy dog category at the Westminster Kennel Club show in New York.
How bizarre.
How utterly bizarre. But it's a fantastic book, which shows you that, in America, if you're rich and you're famous and your grandfather is the most powerful man in the country, nothing happens to you.
But, I mean, it also tells you, 53,000 rounds of ammunition being fired in one kind of incident.
Exactly.
Tells you, I was reading a story over the weekend about some guy in New York who was, thought to be a bit of a vagrant, but he maybe living in a car, nobody was sure, but he started to go a bit crazy, and so the police were called to some incident where he started to kind of behave in a strange sort of way.
Yes.
So they decided they better try and taser him for his own safety or something, right?
Yeah,
so they tasered him, but he then disappeared off and returned with a machete.
Yes.
Right? So they shot him 18 times.
It's unbelievable,
you just can't imagine that happening anywhere else in the world, can you?
No, you can't.
He survived as well. He was still alive.
My God.
And they shot 18 bullets into him.
That's terrible.
Absolutely unbelievable.
That's terrible.
Lots more coming up, by the way.
But this book is fantastic read because you simply can't believe it. It's so unbelievable.
It's so crazy,
that anything like this could have happened without, without them all being wiped out or without her sort of, breaking free and escaping. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very, very odd indeed.
Yeah.
Very strange times. Well, they were very strange times. We'll talk some more about that coming up. Coming up next, though, we're going to talk to the man who's also done something rather strange. He invented a ham dog, which is a hamburger with a hot dog all the way through the middle of it. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
When the sun comes up, we go our different ways. Now everybody has got the choice between hot dogs and hamburgers. Every one of us got to choose between right and
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later. Porky Vision coming up in the next hour as well. Of course, we're not quite sure yet what television Mr. Parry's going to be talking about.
Absolutely.
But you can be assured that it'll be a right riveting listen.
It certainly
right
will.
Now, though, we're going to talk to a man who's come up with rather an unusual idea, Mark Murray. He's come up with this thing called a ham dog.
Yeah.
And looking at a picture of it, Porky, I don't know if you've seen it. It's basically a sesame bun. Sesame bun in the shape of what you might call a sort of, I don't know how to describe it really. It's sort of a hamburger bun in the middle, but two long bits coming out on either side of it.
Yeah, it is literally...
It's almost like a sort of London Underground shaped sign, isn't it?
It is like a London Underground shaped sign, and it's a hamburger with a hot dog supplanted through the middle of it.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And the man,
and a bun cut to that shape.
Yeah, exactly. And the man who patents it down in Australia is called Mark Murray, and he's here to talk to us. And he's in Perth. Mark, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How's things over there?
Very well, thank you.
Very good indeed. Thanks very much. The intriguing part of this story, Mark, is not so much the intricacy of making the bun, but the fact that you went on the Australian equivalent of Dragon's Den, which I think was called Shark Tank, a few years back, and the judges all turned you down for funding.
Yeah, they didn't. They weren't too positive. I did, however, get Andrew Banks. He did come on board to assist with trying to get through to people with his contacts in America. He's Australian, though, lives in the States.
Right.
And again, he thought, it's a bit of a punt, it's a bit of a novelty, but he couldn't see it being a business. Well, lo and behold, it's yesterday probably the biggest news story, believe it or not, on the planet. And the bloody Poms, you guys have just jumped straight on it. I don't know what you're doing over there, but the ham dog in the UK, you're loving it. So we want to be there real soon. So we're actively looking for someone that can represent us over there now,
Okay, is the attraction of this snack, for want of a better word, Mark, that the meats contrast in taste between each other? Because the hamburger can't taste like the hot dog, can it? What's the hot dog taste like? Is it more of a savoury American one, or is it more of an English sort of plastic one, if you know what I mean?
Oh, well, what we did is we taste tested so many mince beef patties and sausages and frankfurts, and we take a bite of one and then a bite of another and chew it up and see how it was. And then, bang, we just came onto two products that worked really well. And it's unusual because it's a taste probably none of us have had. There wouldn't be too many people who have bitten into a hot dog and then gone and bitten into a burger and consumed it at the same time. But it's the thing is, it looks great and it bloody tastes good. That's the strange thing about it. So,
is there a recommended way to eat it? Like, should you start at one end and go all the way down, or should you come in from either end, or start in the middle? How do you do it?
Well, on our packaging, we do have a little disclaimer there that says "best consumed while laughing," because you look at people take this on, and it's like, are you kidding? Yesterday, I had a lovely TV reporter here, and she had it by the sides and was devouring one of the ends. It was pretty good television.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that.
Sounds disgraceful. It's a family show, this,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, apart from anything else, Mark. I mean, in this day and age of people eating fresh foods and not stuffing their mouths with calories and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a heavy-duty piece of food, isn't it? Because if you ate a hamburger immediately followed by a hot dog, you would be accused of being a glutton and of stuffing your face with more than you actually needed to eat. So how do you get around that?
Well, the way we get around that is a little bit of education. Society's problem now is sugar. Mm-hmm. And I've actually been off sugar a few weeks. You can do what you want, you drink what you want, eat what you want, and cut the sugar out and the kilos fall off. So as for the ham dog, it's got literally no sugar in it, and there's certainly nothing wrong with a bit of fat and a bit of common sense, a bit of exercise, but washed down with a beer, it certainly works.
I understand as well that one thing that's holding up mass production is that you haven't yet found anybody to invent a machine to cut the bun to the shape needed for the ham dog, i.e. circular in the middle with extensions at either end. So you have to do it by hand. Are you doing it by hand?
No, we've got moulds that we use, but the dough is pressed in there by hand. So at the moment, we're having moulds made to help semi-automate the process, and we'll be able to send these mould trays around to bakeries all around the world with the ingredients and the dough weights, and bang, they can knock them up in any standard bakery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And presumably, I mean, if you wanted to, or maybe you already thought about this, you could make a veggie version of this, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah, this will go, versions of this will keep going. We've got that much feedback already on what people want in them. But look, I guess, vegetarian, there could be chicken versions and Mexican versions and all sorts of just getting those combos together.
Yeah, because there's a lot of street food in London now, and there's a place actually in Borough Market that do something called a burrito, which is basically a burrito with a burger inside it. So you might want to get here soon before somebody rips it off.
No, that must be a problem, Mark. Surely, what have you done to patent this? Because I didn't know you could actually patent, a design of food. Because you cut a sandwich, you can cut it any way you want, really.
Yeah, well, basically, you're right. There is no product like this with any protection on it on the planet, and especially a burger. Yeah. So the patent I've got describes it as a combination hamburger hot dog bread bun.
Right.
So that's where we've got around that. So the IP protection is in the bun. The design's also registered in Australia. And the beauty of how it's just gone global in the last couple of days, and now it's out in the public domain, it sort of locks in our IP protection, as we all know who did it first. So there's no argument, certainly over that,
Sure, no, you're absolutely right. Well, we wish you a great deal of luck with your very innovative new discovery, if it's a discovery or a development or whatever. And as soon as Mike Graham and I have one, we'll send you back a report on the findings.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you come over here as well, you must let us know.
Indeed,
and we'll come and sample it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm very fortunate to have a lovely English missus, and she's got family over there, so I'm sure we'll be back there. And like I said, you guys over there have just taken to this in a massive way, so we're looking to get there as fast as we can for you.
Great stuff.
That's great.
All right, Mark, well, listen, good luck with it. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Murray there, the man who's invented the ham dog, although apparently somebody in America did it first, but I guess it wasn't maybe as successful over there and it didn't work out.
Why has it suddenly come to prominence today?
Well, because apparently it's something that's taken Australia by storm, and I guess it's one of those stories that, as they do get picked up around the world, suddenly it's emerged, because it's quite an unusual-looking thing.
Yes, of course it is.
And also, I have to say, in the last couple of days, partly because of the fact that you see Brangelina still all over the front pages 2 days in a row,
that's right.
There's not much else going on.
No, yeah, absolutely right.
There isn't a lot of news out there.
I mean, this is the way stories emerge. You and I have an eye for a story everywhere. You can go to a country somewhere and see something, and for instance, and that can become a story for a journalist, but it can become a business venture if you're not. I mean, for instance, Mr. Majedzki, who was for many years the owner of Reading Football Club, and I think may even
in the Majedzki Stadium.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah, which he built himself from his own fortune. Yeah, he went there as a fairly sort of, I don't know, low-level businessman, bit of publishing, that kind of stuff. And he saw a magazine which sold nothing but cars. Right. He came back and founded Auto Trader. Right. And he made hundreds of millions of pounds. Yes. Because he just brought the idea
Was that
back.
the one that ended up being owned by the Express, or was that a different one? So there was a magazine the Express ended up, or maybe that was Auto Express.
Yes, yeah, it definitely wasn't the magazine that we're talking about here, because it got sold in bits, really. People started buying 30% of it, and others bought 20% of it. And I think it's almost entirely a digital product now, but still... hugely,
is the
hugely
sort of Bible
valuable
of the
property,
business,
because exactly, the main marketplace for the buying and selling of second-hand cars in this country. Yeah,
well, it's like the guy that started Quickfit, isn't it? So it was Tom Hunter, I think, who started that, the Scottish guy. Yeah, and until that came along, there was no such thing as a kind of supermarket for getting your car fixed.
I totally agree.
Which is quite a brilliant idea, really.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Talking of burgers, by the way, there was a very weird story that I picked up yesterday as well, where there was one of these pop-up sort of gourmet burger shops opened up in Swiss Cottage. Oh yes, and thousands of people turned up to go and eat there. Really? And they queued up for more than 3 hours. Some of them didn't even get anything to eat.
Well, I told you, didn't I, when I went to St Ives last couple of years ago, there was the burger bar there, but it was...
They made sort of trendy one.
They made them in front of you. Yeah. There was a queue down the street. Right. People would wait 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes for a table. Right. And they made them in front of you on the table and then cooked them. And I think I told you the tables were just long benches. Oh, yeah. Some long wooden tables.
But was that just a local place?
It was a local place in St Ives. Well, St Ives is so trendy now. Listen, getting back to food, by the way, I've just had some information that's came in on that Paddy Hearst story I told you about. One of the demands from the Symbionese Liberation Army was that they would return it to a family if everybody in California who was registered on welfare would be given $70 worth of food.
$70 worth?
$70. Right. The only problem was, even to the Hearst family, this was beyond their means, because that would have totaled $400 million worth of free food to be distributed to the poor.
So that didn't happen?
Didn't happen.
So the ransom was never paid?
The ransom was never paid.
Well, I guess, we've had trouble finding $70 worth of free food to give that many people anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they've had to brought in a National Guard to distribute it all.
Absolutely.
It's all very, very bizarre. Now, we've got Porky Vision coming up in the next hour.
Yes.
William says this. We talked about when autumn begins. Is it the 1st of September or is it later? He says it's officially the first day of autumn today.
Is it?
Forget the Met autumn. That's just four bookkeeping weather patterns.
Yes.
The nights now officially get longer.
Right.
Because I suppose it's September the 21st, isn't it?
September 21st, absolutely right. It's when the leaves start falling, which I see as
you
awesome.
Enjoy it, yeah. Well, today, for the first time, there was a cool breeze coming through my window.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Which was rather nice, actually.
I mean, it's a combination of the trees falling, a cool breeze. Do I need to get a coat out of the closet for the first time? Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I haven't worn a coat for...
I've actually put my barber in to be re-waxed.
Well, there you go. Re-wax the barber.
But you can't dry clean it, though.
A barber?
Yeah. They'll re-wax it for you, but they can't clean it.
Well, who re-waxes it?
There's a company that does it.
That's what I mean. It has to be done by a special company.
It does, but what they don't do is they don't actually clean it.
Yeah.
So apparently the only way you can clean it is to sponge it clean from the inside. The outside gets re-waxed so it looks nice and new.
Right.
Yeah. So it looks okay. But
so you're going to sponge the inside yourself?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I have to have a look at it.
I'm not sure. I don't want to use the sponge from the kitchen to do it.
No.
I'm going to have to buy a special sponge.
No, that's right. Yeah. But all those signs of autumn I haven't even come across yet, because again it was quite a warm day today.
I was wearing shorts today.
Yeah, well, exactly. There you go. So I want these warm days to go, and I want to feel that nip of frost in the air.
Well, I bet it's not going to be warm up in Whitley Bay.
Well, I hope it won't be.
I'm not going to be wearing shorts up there.
No, I won't be wearing shorts up there. No. I go for a paddle up, by the way, on the beach on Sunday morning.
What?
Yeah. Whitley Bay's got some of the best beaches in the world, the northeast of England.
Paddling there.
Certainly has.
I won't be doing it. Anyway, lots more coming up. We are the two mics. This is TalkSport. Your paddling in the sea comment has raised a couple of eyebrows. James says all the Scottish boys are going paddling in the sea with Porky.
What?
On the Sunday morning. So if you go down to Whitley Bay Beach, that's where you'll be, right?
Yeah, well, why not? You know, it's quite refreshing to be on the seaside or to be on the coast, as I well know, living there part of the week. And the bracing winds coming in off the North Sea on that part of
it must be cold up there at certain times of the year.
Freezing.
Yeah.
They're freezing, absolutely freezing, which is what I like about it. But really looking forward to it, and going to be great. Now, I'll tell you something. If we have a problem getting back from Whitley Bay, because we have a show on Sunday as well this week, there is good news for the future.
Oh, is there?
You know...
Well, I'm not worried about the future. I'm more worried about Sunday.
Well, yeah, but OK, Sunday we've made arrangements to make sure we get back
here.
Have
you checked that the trains are running and everything? It's not like,
Well, they sold us a ticket to get back, so it's unlikely,
does it?
It's unlikely they sold us a ticket if they're not running the train back.
You think that?
Yes.
Well, do you remember when we went to Birmingham to do that show?
Yeah,
years ago.
Yes.
And the train that we were booked back on...
Yeah, didn't run.
It was cancelled.
That's right.
And unfortunately, I'd misplaced my ticket. So when I got back to the station, I said, I've got the receipt here. I've got the printout of what my ticket was.
Yes.
And the guy said, no, you have to buy another ticket.
A whole new ticket.
Yeah.
A first-class ticket.
A first-class ticket.
340 quid.
Well, I don't think... No, it wasn't anything like that.
There was more than one of us.
No, it wasn't. No, it was 40 quid I had to pay.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, no, it was, because you still had your ticket.
No, but we went into first class on the replacement train.
Yeah.
And the guy tried to tell us, you didn't buy a first-class ticket for this train. I said, we bought a first-class ticket for the last train, but it was cancelled. It didn't run.
Yeah, exactly.
And he tried to charge us over 340 quid.
You're right, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, I said to this guy, well, why are you charging me for another ticket since the train ticket that I had was for a train that doesn't exist?
Exactly.
Which should have been then valid on this train. Anyway, nonsensical. So they will sell you a ticket without running a train.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's hope not. But anyway, in years to come, that might not be a problem. Guess why?
Why?
They have got very close now, really, a breakthrough, and I knew this would always happen. I knew you'd be able to get to Australia in a matter of an hour, and that's because teleportation, which in the layman's terms is beam me up Scotty.
Beam me up Scotty, yes.
Is here.
Or Spocky, as you said earlier.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. Well, how do you mean it's here?
What I'm saying is, scientists have made a breakthrough where they now think it's going to be possible.
Which scientists?
Well, the top scientists who deal with teleportation, OK?
The top scientists who deal with teleportation?
Yeah,
and where are they?
Sorry?
Are they in California?
They're all around the world, but they've all got together and they have worked out quantum teleportation. Teleportation.
No, it's very difficult if you can't even say it.
No,
You've definitely got no chance of doing it.
Listen, let me tell you, the Beam Me Up Scotty thing is no longer just a dream. It is part of the future.
Yeah, but this is all about basically kind of dissolving your molecules of your body.
That's right.
And reforming them somewhere else.
That's right,
Have
absolutely.
you seen The Fly?
No, I haven't. I'm not going to watch that. I hate flies. I can't
What do you mean
bear
you hate
it.
flies?
Oh, I hate looking at flies.
I saw a guy on
TV
TV the other day.
Yeah.
You know what his job is?
No.
His job is to basically be a fly farmer.
Oh, no, thank you.
Can you imagine anything worse?
Oh,
and
God,
he
no.
puts a white coat on every day. He goes into a room full of flies.
Oh, no, thank you.
And he watches what they do.
No.
He's a sort of fly behaviourist.
No.
No, but the point about the flies is that, Jeff Goldblum, there was an original one as well.
Yes.
But the famous one is Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
And he learns and he works on a principle of trying to teleport himself from one side of the room to the other.
That's right.
And he gets in the, the little cubicle, seals it.
But so does a fly, doesn't it?
But unfortunately, so does a fly. So when he comes out the other end, the fly's DNA and his DNA have all been mixed up.
Right.
And so he turns into a sort of a half man, half fly.
God, that's
It's a
disgusting.
It's a fantastic sort of horror film.
Oh.
But, I mean, that would worry me, to be honest.
At the end of the film, does he get back to being a human?
No. At the end of the film, as the film goes on, he becomes more and more like a fly.
Oh, God.
So at first, it's fascinating, because at first he's full of energy.
Yeah.
And he goes to bars and he can sort of Rogerize all night without having to, stop for
But he
rest.
doesn't look like a fly.
No, he doesn't look like a fly at the beginning, but then he starts to grow these weird hairs, and
Right.
then his fingernails start to fall out, and he starts to. He can only. All he wants to eat is sugared water, because flies love sugar.
Yeah.
But I would worry if they were doing it, even if they were doing it commercially, that something like that would happen.
Well, anyway, look, so what's happened is that so far they've only made it possible with information.
What do you mean with information?
Well, at the moment, the only thing you can beam me up, Scotty, is entangled units of quantum information.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's basically dissembling and putting back together information, which they hope to replace with molecules in years to come. You see what I mean?
But when you say transporting information in some way, shape or form, I'm not sure. I don't understand how.
Well, let me read this to you from the report I've had. It came
Okay.
through one of my scientific journals.
Did it?
For the first time, scientists
Teleportation Weekly.
No, don't be facetious. For the first time, scientists have successfully teleported quantum information over a significant distance using a city's fibre optic infrastructure.
Ah, right, okay.
Two separate teams of researchers achieved the feat, considered a prerequisite to building Prerequisite, that's right, prerequisite to building a secure quantum internet, and broke the distance record for fibre optic teleportation in the process. quantum teleportation could involve the science fiction style transfer of objects. Right.
Well, that's how the fly guy started, because he started transporting things like a block of wood, and then he would do a book, and then he did his dog, I think.
Right.
And then he decided it was safe enough to do himself.
Okay. And what was he trying to achieve?
Well, he wanted to be able to do exactly what these guys want to do, which is the fact that the two cubicles were quite close.
Right.
Wouldn't matter if you could put one of the cubicles 100 miles away.
Yeah, I see.
Maybe you could do it for over a further distance.
Yeah. But it says here the target is to move information securely using a phenomenon by which particles can be entangled so that a change on one affects another even when they're separated. This weird property of particles is so discombobulated...
Discombobulated, a good word.
Yeah. That Albert Einstein referred to it as the spooky action at a distance.
Really?
And could never figure it out.
Yeah, well, I can't...
So Einstein couldn't figure it out.
I'm not sure what quantum data is, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
There's no point in pretending that you know what you're talking about if you don't.
Yeah.
Is there?
OK, well, it says here that scientists in Canada and China who are investigating the potential for creating a quantum network in which information could be transmitted in an uncrackable form by using this property is now well advanced. Right. And this comes from the journal I've told you about, Nature Photonics, OK?
No, I don't know what that is either.
Nature Photonics.
What's Nature Photonics?
It's a magazine which studies the nature of photonics.
OK.
OK? Don't you understand that?
No.
Isn't that...
Well, it sounds obvious, I suppose, the way you explain it, but I'm not sure really what that means.
Yes.
But you see, I suppose what they're trying to say is that they want to be able to move information quicker than it currently moves.
That's right.
So rather than have it travel along a fibre optic line or in the air as part of the internet, you can do it maybe more securely and quicker. Because there's nothing more annoying, is there, than having Wi-Fi somewhere and it just doesn't work very quickly.
No, that's right.
There's nothing more annoying than that.
It says that these procedures mean that vast quantities of whatever it is, in this particular instance it's information, but it could be human matter in the future, can be performed across huge distances.
Right.
It's hard to transfer entangled photons without interference along the way at present, but this hopefully can be overcome.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it, to go from sending photons to sending people?
Well, no, because photons, again, are a bit like protons.
Are they?
And a bit like...
it was a car, wasn't it?
Eh?
Wasn't that a car?
It was a very poor car.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good at all. And the molecules and all that kind of stuff that make up... I mean, matter in itself is only a step away from tissue.
Is it?
And tissue is like human matter, you see what I mean?
Human matter?
Yeah.
Blood matter.
No, you idiot. But anyway, it says that...
Well, I hope they're not going to put you in charge of it.
It says here, the current experiments show that teleportation across metropolitan distances is going to be technologically feasible.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, many interesting quantum information experiments in the future will be built on this work.
Right.
So, anything's possible, really.
Well, look, here's a picture of Jeff Goldblum as the Fly.
Ew, God.
Isn't that horrible?
Disgusting.
That is disgusting.
I couldn't have gone to see that film.
It's a great film. Yeah, you should watch it. You should definitely get it on your box.
I'd have nightmares. I would have nightmares about it.
G. O'Hara says, I hope Porky scientists don't end up like this. So,
absolutely.
Let that be a warning to you.
Absolutely.
Now, we've got loads coming up. Now,
Okay.
David, I'm not sure if he's being tongue-in-cheek here, but he says Whitney Bay, which is not Whitley Bay, is a replacement bus service this weekend. We may have to check that.
What?
A replacement bus service.
We're going to Whitney Bay, not Whitney Bay.
Well, is Whitney Bay... I don't know if Whitney Bay exists, does it?
No, Whitney Bay doesn't exist.
No.
Listen, what we're doing is we're getting the Rattler up to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And then at Newcastle Central Station, we jump on...
So we have to get off there?
Well, of course, when you get on the train, you have to get off.
No, but I mean, you're always very vague about this.
No.
Because I know what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that we get off the train and then have to run for another train.
No, not at all. Because
time the trains.
No. I told you, didn't I? When I went to watch Everton at Sunderland a couple of seasons ago, they've got a very efficient metro service. You get off the train at our Newcastle Central Station, and we get onto a metro which goes out to the coast, goes past Wallsend, to Tynemouth, and then turns left into Whitney Bay.
Where Grange Hill was based?
Grange Hill?
Was Grange Hill not based up there?
Biker.
Oh, Biker, yeah. Biker Grove.
Biker Grove, that's right, yeah. Which is a huge housing estate of very sort of...
Careful.
Yeah, I was going to say... dishevelled and low-life people at one time. At one time.
You wouldn't want to offend anybody.
No, but has now been redeveloped into a significant...
Upmarket, upscale...
Well, not necessarily, but significant social block of housing.
Yes. Excellent. Yes. Very good indeed. Well done. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah.
What a great song that is.
It's a terrible song.
Hallelujah. It's a great song.
It's shocking.
Why is it shocking?
It's shocking, let me tell you.
Why?
Now, that's... do you know why we played that? Because this week...
It's Leonard Cohen's version. Right?
I was going to say...
when I say version, I mean it's a song.
Yeah, this week, the guy who sung that, or... Did he write it?
Leonard Cohen, yeah.
Well, he didn't write hallelujah. Hallelujah is a word that's been around since the times of Jesus.
Well, all words have been around since the times of Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's the order in which you put them. Well, it's the order in which you put the words that makes the lyric.
I think ABBA wrote a better version. Hallelujah, day by day.
What?
Hallelujah, in every way.
I don't know that one.
Hallelujah.
No, it doesn't sound as good.
When I want to talk to you. And all that kind of stuff.
Hallelujah, when I want to talk to you.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's what you call a classic.
Anyway, the reason we played a bit of that is because I've always found Leonard Cohen, the little of his music that I've listened to, the most boring musician in the world.
Well, I mean, he is known to be a bit of a depressive.
Oh, he's just a bore, just a crass bore. Now, what happened was, when I was at the Chester
Bird
Chronicle...
on a Wire is a great song.
Bird on a Wire?
Yeah.
But all his music sounds like funereal stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very, sort of slow, I would say.
Anyway, apparently until the age of about 32, he was an A&R guy at a record company. What's that? Artists and Recordings. Or something,
it's A&R guys are the ones that used to go out and sort of spot stars.
Right, okay, yeah. And then he decided to have a go himself and all that, and then he got mildly successful.
He's kind of known more as a poet in a way than he is as a musician.
Yeah, well, he's how old is he now? He's celebrating his birthday.
70 odd, mustn't he?
Oh, no, 82.
82,
right. Now, the reason that I've always hated this guy is because when I was a reporter on Chester Chronicle, as well as having a sort of regular girlfriend who didn't work in newspapers, she was like a secretary, you know.
Right.
I also tapped up another...
Tapped up?
Yes.
In the vernacular sense, meaning what?
Well, sort of got associated with
a
young lady who was a reporter on the same paper as me.
Right.
And who was very attractive.
Who wasn't a secretary?
She wasn't a secretary, she was a reporter.
Right.
She was a reporter. Uh-huh. And she's a bit older than me, actually.
Was she?
Yeah. And,
how much older?
Oh, only about a couple of years or something. But, I mean, she was very attractive. And...
you say that as if it's unusual.
No, it's not unusual. It's just that, she... No, so one night in the pub, we decided to, take it a bit further, you know what I mean?
Take it a bit further where?
Well, the relationship.
Oh, and how did this come about?
Because we were talking in the pub and having drinks.
You weren't sitting there snogging in the pub, were you?
Well, there could have been a bit of that. Could have been a bit of that.
See, that's a terrible way to behave in public.
No, but in a very quiet and dark corner, you know what I mean?
Really?
So anyway...
Did you have your hand around her?
Well, I'm not getting into this sort of thing.
Well,
Anyway, she then notified me because I was only about 19. She was about 21 or something. Her parents were away for a few days.
Was this in the pub?
This is in a pub, yeah. Right. And her house was empty.
Oh, right.
Because at the time I lived, in a house with other blokes, you know what I mean?
Some kind of tip.
Yeah, some sort of tip. Yeah, that's right, yeah. But it was only
and also, you've already told us you didn't ever want to take anybody back there in case they didn't think they were good enough.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah, that's the
Although
point.
In this case, you would have been, presumably.
Well, not really, but anyway. So we went back to her parents' house, which is a great 5-bedroom house on the edge of a golf course in a place called Upton, which is a suburb
of How appropriate.
Upton, that's right, yeah, in a suburb of Chester.
No good.
Suburb of Chester. Anyway. We got some more drink out and all that, and then she put some music on, and it was this rubbish.
Leonard Cohen.
Oh, it's this bilge.
Oh, she was probably trying to be romantic.
It was dreadful. So I couldn't get in the mood at all. I said, "What is this?" And that was that record, Hallelujah. And
well, you know, there are various interpretations of what it's meant to be about.
What's it supposed to be about?
Well, there's one interpretation which it says that it has a sort of sexual connotation.
Oh, really?
And Hallelujah represents an orgasm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There are other
for me.
Well, maybe that would have been the 12 pints of beer.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are other interpretations that it's all about, the sort of the worshipping of God,
right?
And that it actually has more of a revelatory kind of feel to it.
But anyway, she's played this record, and I said, "This is rubbish. Put something else on." So she put another Leonard Cohen record on, and that was even worse.
That wasn't Bird on a Wire. Was it Suzanne?
I don't know what it was, but it was like funereal music. I said, "What are you playing all this rubbish for? Is everything anything decent, you know?"
Well, like ABBA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a bit of ABBA. She
was obviously quite a cultured woman.
Yeah, exactly. And she said, "Oh, you're a Philistine and all that." I didn't know what Philistine meant actually in those days. And so we had this terrible row, and I lost my opportunity. She's a very attractive woman.
So you blew it, in other words.
I blew it because told her.
You didn't. Surely
I thought
you should have
Leonard
learned.
Cohen was like, just the piss.
Surely you should have learned the first rule of courting, if you wish to call it that, which I know it wasn't, because it was far too base for that.
Yeah.
If some woman takes you home, puts a record on,
that's right.
You don't tell her it's rubbish.
But I couldn't stand it.
Even if you hate it, you pretend to like it.
It was interfering with my performance technique, and I just
You prefer something a bit quicker.
Well, I just prefer something.
Was it the speed of it?
It was just so dreadful. It was literally like being in a. It was like being at a crematorium.
Yeah.
And I thought, I hate this music. I can't stand it. Who is this guy? She said, it's Leonard Cohen.
Well, I think it's a bit
my
harsh.
My favourite musician. I said, what are your favourite musician?
How come you never found that out, though? How long have you been going out with this girl?
I hadn't. I'd never been gone out with her. I'd just taken the opportunity that night for a liaison.
Oh, right. So, But you must have asked her out to the pub, though.
Well, no, it was the sort of pub we all went to after work.
I see.
You see what I mean?
I see. So you just cozied up to her in the pub?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, and so, that was pretty impressive work, then, to be back at her place within the same night.
Well, I think so, don't you? Yeah, absolutely.
So you hadn't had a conversation about her favourite musician, then?
No, exactly. That's well, no, to be fair, he was trendy then, Leonard Cohen, and this young lady, and she's very well read and all this kind of stuff. She's very well endowed as well, actually. She was very well read. And she also, part of her brief on part of her responsibilities on the paper was looking after stories.
Didn't get into her briefs.
No, come on. This is a family show.
It is a family show, yeah.
Was reporting on CAMRA, CAMRA.
The Real Ale people, yeah.
And they
were sort of in their infancy then, weren't they?
They're in their infancy, but they had a very active sort of chapter in Chester. So you used to go to all these pubs that did real ale and all that, met all these guys.
Yeah.
And they were all into Leonard Cohen, you see.
I see, yeah.
And so that's the influence there was, it's so trendy. CAMRA like Leonard Cohen and all this.
Right.
So she got into it. So my complaints were, A, I thought Leonard Cohen was drivel. B, the CAMRA guys were, like the woolly jumpered, bearded, open sandal brigade. So I hated them. And she started talking about them, it's their favourite music.
So you basically got it completely wrong, this, didn't you?
No, she was class.
You had nothing in common with
her. She wore, very nice sort of long leather boots and all this kind of stuff, and she had, expensive clothes and all that. Came from
Did she have a car?
Good house. Yes, she had a car.
Yeah.
She had
nice car.
Well, I wasn't a lot keen on her car. It was, believe it or not, it was a Saab.
A Saab?
Yeah,
that's a great car.
Yeah,
Why do you like a Saab?
Well, I didn't like the shape of it,
Didn't like the shape of it.
And you got to remember,
was it like a Saab 900?
It was a Saab Saloon.
I mean, they haven't really changed their shape over the years that much.
It was a Saab Saloon.
I nearly bought a Saab when I lived in New York. I used to love Saabs.
Oh, no, I didn't like it at all. And, of course, you've got to remember...
I should have got out with it.
Well, in those days, there weren't that many imported cars. It was quite unusual to have a non-British car, you see what I mean?
Well, no, we had an Audi in, the early 70s.
Well, you may have done, but I remember some guy turned up once in a Peugeot somewhere, and I didn't know what a Peugeot was.
Right.
I couldn't pronounce it. I said the Pugot. Yeah, that's right, because nobody knew what it was. But, so it all kind of, went a bit sort of belly up. But I blame Leonard Cohen for all of that.
I'm amazed that you've actually managed to get on in life as well as you have.
Well,
because you were sort of fired out of your home without any knowledge of anything at all.
Not really.
No foreign car knowledge, no Chinese food knowledge.
I bet you there are a load of people out there who will sympathise with me greatly over the Leonard Cohen situation.
Yeah.
I bet you there are.
Well, let me tell you this. Matt says this. Tell Porky he's a musical Philistine. Leonard Cohen has made some great albums, have written some great poems and short stories.
I don't think so.
Well, he has.
Well,
I mean, he is known as a poet.
What great short stories has he written?
I'm not familiar with his short stories.
I bet it doesn't match up to Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel?
Yeah, they
that's grim, isn't it?
The Brothers Grimm. Yeah, that's right, yeah. But they wrote brilliant short stories.
Well, they wrote fairy tales.
Yeah, OK, that's fine, but they turned out to be brilliant stories, didn't they?
Well, they were very good stories.
Yeah.
Robbie says this, Porky has not got a clue regarding teleportation. Wow, it's only around the corner. And he says, stop watching Star Trek.
Yeah, well, I used to like Star Trek, actually, but that was only because of the Beam Me Up Scotty reference, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
But, no, I mean, I just don't know how anybody who had any sort of appreciation whatsoever for popular music, certainly in those days, could stand there or lie there and listen to that drivel of Leonard Cohen. I just don't know.
Well, here's another one from Peter. It says, Porky, you don't know women if you are dissing Leonard Cohen. She gave you the key and you tossed it aside. Leonard Cohen is auto-entry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Perhaps I should have been a little bit more subtle about it. But anyway, we did manage to revive it a bit, actually.
Did you?
Sometime later, yeah. But we were working together, weren't we? So there was a period of reproachments, put it that way.
She must have been going through a sort of, socially downwardly mobile period, I suppose, if she was
I don't think so.
You.
I don't think so. I think the longer we knew each other, the better it got for me in terms of she saw more about me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you managed to find out more about the things that she liked and started
lying
about
I suppose
them.
it was that sort of thing. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, listen, coming up next is Porky Vision.
Indeed.
So strap yourselves in.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Atletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
It always makes me laugh, that, no matter how many times you hear it. Now, that music, of course, signifies that it is time for Porky Vision. We've had some very, very interesting Porky Visions of late.
Yes.
The standard's been very high. People have been very, very excited about it.
Yeah.
So, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I want to talk about Poldark.
Okay.
I haven't talked about Poldark for a while.
Really?
No, I haven't.
Not for about 2 weeks.
No, I haven't. I haven't covered Poldark for a while.
Right.
And there's been some great BBC series on recently. I told you the one about the One of Us, One of Us and all that kind of stuff.
That's all over now.
But the the other one that I want to talk to you about, I've actually forgotten the name of it, but it's it's a really good one about it's called Hooton and Somebody, okay?
Hooton and Somebody.
Hooton and the Lady.
Hooton and the Lady.
I'm writing it down so I don't forget after I talk to you about
Hooton
Poldark.
and the Lady.
Hooton and the Lady, it's called. Right. Yeah, okay. Now
Hootie and the Blowfish.
No, Hooton and the Lady.
All right.
Now, Poldark.
Yes.
I've now come to the conclusion. This is the third episode. No, how many episodes is it? Third episode of the second series
of Poldark.
Yes. And Poldark's a loser.
Is he?
Well,
I thought he was one of your heroes.
No. I thought he was going to turn out to be a hero.
Right.
A swashbuckling soldier comes back from the American wars, the American War of Independence and all that, and comes back and inherits his father's sort of falling empire, but for the 2 or 3 years now, he hasn't done anything with it. Just keeps going more and more bankrupt.
Right.
And
But he's such a terrible actor as well.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's all about image, isn't it? And he's a stunningly good-looking bloke.
And he's still taking his shirt off at regular intervals.
Yeah, he's still taking his shirt off and going down the mine.
Yeah.
Now, the point is that by now he should have done something to turn it round. Everybody's stitching him up all over the place.
Right.
He keeps getting caught out in business deals. He keeps getting turned over by his ex-mates who now hate him and all this kind of stuff.
He's a bit of what you might call a sort of what's the word? He's a sort of
he's a loser.
He's an optimist, isn't he?
Well, he's not even an optimist. He is in my view, one of life's losers. Now, in the latest series, right, his wife now, in my view, is. Well, she was approached by a sort of an elderly landowner for a bit of horizontal refreshment.
Oh, really?
And she didn't altogether sort of repel.
Oh, really?
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So losers lose their women in life because they just simply don't have it.
Yes.
And
somebody else does.
Yeah, exactly. Now, having said that, there is another woman in his life who's married now to another guy trying to shoot himself. But the guy who tried to shoot himself.
So is he having a dalliance with somebody else then?
Who?
Poldark.
Well, no. What happened is the bloke who tried to shoot himself lost his fortune in a card game.
Right.
But the benevolence of the local community meant that he sort of got a bit of it back, so he can still live in his mansion and all that.
So what did he miss when he tried to shoot himself?
No, the gun jammed.
Oh, right.
That's the plot. So he locks himself into the locked room, and points the gun at his head. No, seriously.
Locked room.
Yeah, points the gun at his head, pulls the trigger, and there's a bang. But the bang was the gun blowing up. It didn't actually fire a musket through his head.
Yeah.
But he's now sort of a born again, sort of ex-loser type guy who goes around threshing corn in the fields and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Poldark is driving around flogging everything that he owns to try and pay the interest on another huge loan he's taken out.
Right.
Because he keeps trying to revive a mine where clearly there is no copper left. This is a tin mine in
well, there would be any copper in it, would there?
Well, no, not a tin mine, I suppose. No, you're absolutely right, yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
I do.
They're trying to explore this mine for more metals, and all you see is these pictures of Poldark without his shirt on, with a hammer and a chisel, and he keeps chiseling away.
Well, exactly, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the last time I saw it, and I ended up switching it off, because I'm like, well, the amount he's going to get out of that, is going to be there for about 1 million years.
Exactly. And nothing's coming out.
No.
And yet he keeps talking about hiring more people, but he's got no money, so he's flogged all his... cattle and all sorts of things, to try and pay off these bills.
Right.
But it's moving at an incredibly slow pace now.
Yeah.
The whole of the second episode of the series was him in jail and being tried in court. Now, in court, he was supposed to be sentenced to riot, which is punishable by hanging, on the words of his manservant.
Right.
Who was a drunken old bum. I mean, a really drunken old bum.
Who probably wouldn't be employed by anybody else.
Wouldn't be employed by anybody else, and had been the manservant to the family for 30 years.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But manservant's so drunk now and so, gone in the head. A guy who wants Poldark out the way paid him 15 guineas to stand up in court and say, he was definitely in charge of the riot.
To fit him up.
Fit him up, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, when the day comes, it's the one day in the past 25 years manservant's been sober and gets a conscience and says, I can't do it, So it's quite funny. So Poldark survives because the manservant won't testify against him.
Yeah.
But the problem is, manservant then has upset the person who gave him the 15 guineas, who then sends another bloke along to literally kick him to death.
Right.
Which is it's a bit unfortunate.
Why is that funny to you?
Well, I'll tell you why it's funny, because they come along and they kick him to death, right? And then the local community all come round, this is terrible. And they lay him out on a table.
Yeah.
In the back room, in the parlour where they used to put bodies in those days,
Right.
And then spend all his 15 guineas, which they find in his pocket, which is, in equivalent day terms, like 5,000 quid or something,
right.
You know what I mean?
So how many more episodes of this nonsense are people going to have to put up with?
About 7.
Oh, God.
But the problem is that whilst they're all whining and dining on the 15 guineas, old footman, servant, wakes up. So he's not been kicked to death at all. He's just a bit concussed, and he then
probably quite sore.
Well, yeah, I mean, very sore and all this kind of stuff. So that plot's a bit all over the place, okay? And I'm not sure where it's going next because, as people
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of it.
As people have said in TV reviews, he keeps riding up and down this same path on the cliffs above
and it turns out that's
sea.
not even him, right?
It's not him. It's a body double.
A stunt rider.
Yeah, but the point is, he always seems to be going to Truro.
Yeah.
When anybody ever says, Master, what have you to do today? He says, I must go to Truro. So I
wonder what's in Truro.
I don't know. He pushes off to Truro.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say that I do think that the geography of the thing is brilliant. When you see the main street in Truro, and you see, all the signs for the ale houses swaying in the wind and all that kind of stuff, and, you see the local marketplace and all that. I mean, the one thing I can't get is how well dressed everybody is and clean they are.
Because, of course, they weren't in those days.
Oh, no, I'm told that in 17th century Cornwall, people lived like the pigs in the sties. They
used to throw all sorts of horrible stuff out into the street, didn't they?
I mean,
Waste
people were filthy. People literally rolling around in the mud and the blood and the beer was not half of it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that... on one occasion...
You're not going to have any time for hootie and the blowfish.
Well, no, I'll tell you that in a minute. On one occasion, a man in Cornwall, went up to speak to his neighbour in the street, and a worm came out of his eye because they all had parasites and that kind of stuff in their bodies. That's
rats running around.
Yeah, that's how filthy they all were.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, I'll keep you up to date. Now, this other one, what's it called? Hooten.
Hooten and the girl, or the lady.
Hooten and the lady.
Right.
Now, do you know what that is? You know what it reminds me of?
No idea.
You know
The Lady's a magazine, isn't it?
Oh, no, this is a lady. A lady,
oh, okay.
a person lady.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember in the 80s when we were in New York?
Yeah.
The great Michael Douglas film, Romancing the Stone.
I do remember that.
Did you see
Kathleen
it?
Turner, yes,
Yeah,
many times. In fact, not only have I seen it, I used to watch it kind of constantly because it was always on HBO.
I loved it.
And I used to get home, and whenever I got home, no matter what time of the day or night it was
always on.
It was always on.
And it was about Michael Douglas being this adventurer in Colombia, and Kathleen Turner going to try and find her sister.
She was an author, wasn't she?
She was an author, well-known author, and she turned up there. Danny DeVito's in and
That's
all
right.
that. Well, this Hooten and the Lady is an exact replica of that plot.
Oh, is it?
This woman is a...
Was it an American show?
No, yes, it is, but it's got great British content. The woman who is the lady is a lecturer at the British Museum in this country, who suddenly gets a tip off that great ancient treasures have been found in the Amazon forest.
Yeah,
she shoots off there,
right?
Gets into trouble with the local natives, native tribes, and old Hooten, who is a local adventurer. Inadvertently rescues her, and now they're locked together in this battle against,
Is this like a series, or is it just a one-off?
I don't know, I've only seen the first one. I think it's a series, but it's a little bit unbelievable, very unbelievable, because they're being chased all the time by tribes of...
so it sounds like a complete rip-off, then.
It is a complete rip-off of the plot, but it's still quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
But they're being chased all the time by crowds of uncivilised natives who keep firing poison-tipped arrows at them.
Right.
But all the poison-tipped arrows miss all the time.
But is it sort of high, is it very expensively produced? Because, to do something like Romancing the Stone, it costs quite a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
It's all shot on location or everything.
Well, Sky spend literally tens of millions of pounds on these series.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Boardwalk.
Yeah,
but
a lot of them are done, but they're not done by Sky. They're just bought in, aren't they? They're all HBO.
They're HBO. Well, this is a Sky one. This is a Sky production.
Is it?
And, what was that one Sky did about the Arctic or the Antarctic? You know the one?
Yeah, well, you talked about
Remote
Porky
Community,
Vision.
That's right.
Yeah,
Remote Community.
that was the one where the polar bears attacked people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the one.
You said that was rubbish, though.
Yeah, well, it was. That cost tens of millions of pounds to make and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think Hooten and the Lady's perhaps got a future.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's on Sky, is it?
Yeah, that's on Sky One, and it's a Sky One production, so to speak.
Well, not everybody gets that.
Sorry?
Not everybody gets that.
Anybody who gets the football gets Sky One.
Yeah, no, but not everybody gets Sky, is what I'm saying.
Most everybody gets Sky these days.
No, that's not true. No,
they
absolute
do.
rubbish.
They do.
No.
They do. If you watch football in this country, and almost everybody of the male persuasion does, you get Sky.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it then, is it?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
That was good, didn't you think?
I did. I was brilliant. Yeah.
I thought that was very educational.
That was very educational.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, of course, Porky
Poldark's
Vision.
a loser.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
She sits alone by a lamppost, trying to find a thought that's escaped her mind. She says, "There's the one I love the most, but time's not far behind."
Any idea who that is?
Any idea who that is?
Yeah.
Let me listen.
What were we talking about before?
Only tells me where she's been.
Well, it's not Leonard Cohen, is it?
No. But it is from the same part of the world.
Right, let me just think. That could be... Is it something to do with Romancing the Stone?
No, not really, no. It's more to do with the name of the show.
Oh, Hooten and the Lady.
Yeah.
The Lady.
Yeah.
The Lady?
No.
Lady Bird?
Well, I said what the name of the band was, but you probably weren't paying attention.
Lady...
It was more like Hootie.
Hootie?
Yeah, Hootie and...
I don't know. Hootie?
Hootie and the Blowfish.
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Yeah.
God, what a stupid name.
It's
stupid name.
quite a good piece of music, though, isn't it?
You know, by the way...
Do you like it?
No, I don't.
You
no.
don't like
No, I
it?
don't like that, no. No, didn't like that.
So if you went to some girl's house and she played Hootie and the Blowfish, you'd give her a hard time as well?
I probably would as well, yeah. Now, Romancing the Stone?
Yeah.
You won't believe this, but the...
Probably not, no.
Eddie... Was it Eddie Grant who was the great reggae star
That's
of the
right.
day? Right.
Yeah, Electric Avenue.
Electric Avenue,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, what happens is, this film is like a blockbuster of the year, because
Yeah.
Michael Douglas not only starred in it, I think he produced it, didn't he?
I think
or
he did,
directed
yeah.
it or something
Yeah.
like that, And so he gets Eddie Grant to write a fantastic song called Romancing the Stone.
Yeah.
And it goes like this. I'm romancing the stone. I know that's the start of it. I don't know any more words. But,
really?
But it was great. It was a reggae record done by Eddie Grant. Yeah, I'm certain.
I don't know that song.
Well, this is the point. So when we go to the cinema to see this, you know, and then Romancing the Stone, the film comes up, but the opening song, what do you call it? The theme tune, is not Romancing the Stone.
I know.
There'd been some terrible contractual disputes about who owned the rights to the record. It was never attached to the film.
Right.
So the film had some other record.
So the film wasn't named after the music, though, was it?
No, the film was called Romancing the Stone.
And he then wrote the song.
Eddie Grant then wrote the song, and then for some reason that I've never properly understood, the song was not allowed to be attached to the film.
Oh, right.
You know, I don't know whether it was the publishing rights or whether the contractual deal between the record company and the film producers had not been signed or something. But it was very odd.
Did the record ever get released then?
Yeah, it did. It got released as a single in its own right, but it wasn't allowed to be...
But it couldn't be associated with the film.
Could be associated with the film, yeah.
Because it was Billy Ocean that did the song for the film, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? I didn't know.
When the going gets tough. Remember that one?
Oh, was that the theme for the song?
When the going gets tough, because they also made a video, if you remember.
When the going gets tough.
The tough get going.
Yeah.
And they were in, and there was Michael Douglas in a white suit. He was in a white suit, and Kathleen Turner was there as well.
Oh.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that. No,
How can you not remember that?
Don't know. I
mean, it wasn't in the movie, but that was the song they played in the movie.
You remember the end of the movie?
Yeah, where the boat comes down Manhattan in sort of Fifth Avenue.
I saw that being made.
I think
told
you told me
didn't
that.
I?
Yeah.
Walked round the corner one morning from Janie's place down on 36, and
she didn't live on 36. She lived uptown, didn't she?
No, she lived on 36.
I thought she lived on 60 somewhere.
No. You
sure? Well, I lived on 36th Street.
No, she lived on 34th then, because you came out of the news building, turned right, you went down 6 blocks, and you went over that bridge, that little bridge.
What, over the Midtown Tunnel?
Yeah, over the Midtown Tunnel, absolutely.
Okay, so she was on 2nd Avenue
then? She was on 2nd, that's right, yeah, she was, yeah.
6 blocks down from...
Yeah.
Well, that was 36 and 2nd.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, that's how she was. Yeah.
Well, maybe when I was there and you were there at the same time, I didn't live in 36th Street.
No, you didn't. You lived in the brownstone then.
I lived on 81st.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we sorted that.
Yeah, but anyway, we
haven't got much time, you know.
No, okay, haven't got much time. So what we need to talk about?
Well, hang on, I need to read you some tweets.
Oh, right.
I want to do that.
Let's do that
because we've got one at least admirer with your Leonard Cohen view from Steve.
Oh, good.
He says having horizontal refreshment with Leonard Cohen isn't much of a romantic setup. I'd rather staple my head to a fence.
Well, there you go.
Which is a bit rash.
It is a bit rash.
Peter says Leonard Cohen, the girl was out of your league, Porky.
No, I don't think so.
James says Porky says this. She was very classy. She wore long leather boots.
Yeah, that's right.
David says Leonard Cohen was 82 yesterday. Although I love all his music, his songs and poetry shine brightest.
Shine brightest, David.
Robbie says it's a family show, claims Porky, but he's the one who keeps bringing up his past sex life.
No, I don't. I know that was nothing to do with it. I can tell you the lady's name. Actually, her name was Helen Hughes.
You don't have to tell us.
No, I might as well because
Helen Hughes.
Helen Hughes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she'll come to Whitley Bay.
Maybe she will. Yeah, but I
should put out an APB for her.
The last I heard, right, she left the Chester Chronicle, and I left the Chester Chronicle, I went to Newcastle. Last I heard, she went to somewhere like Exeter.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that to work on a paper down there.
Really?
So maybe she's in the West Country.
Maybe she's married and lives down there.
Oh, absolutely.
Nick says this, Mike Parry on the Saab. I didn't like the shape of it. Sounds like something his girlfriend would have said about Porky.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
And Richard says, Porky didn't tell us Poldark was partly set in his house, in the locked room.
In the locked room, that's absolutely right.
And Becky, who still hasn't forgiven you for what you said about the cat, says, who cares about the Poldark storyline so long as Aidan Turner keeps taking his top off?
Well, you see, that's a very sexist point of view. Imagine if I said that about, never mind what happens in the plot as long as this young lady keeps taking her blouse off, to reveal her bosom. I mean, that would be sexist, wouldn't it? I wouldn't say something like that.
It probably would. No, I'm amazed you wouldn't. Kevin says this. Mike Parry said Angelina Jolie's chances of getting another man is slim. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard him say.
Well, with 6 children, I think it is.
Well, not if you're Angelina Jolie.
Which bloke's going to take on,
Don't be ridiculous.
6 children?
You said all this yesterday.
Yeah,
of course she's going to find somebody else.
Yes.
Tell Porky to watch Channel 4, National Treasure, Julie Walters and Robbie Coltrane, he says.
Julie Rogers and who?
Not Julie Rogers, no, Julie Walters.
Oh, Julie Walters.
This is the thing that's based on the kind of Operation U-Tree, and it's a guy who, Robbie Coltrane plays this very... well-known TV personality who gets investigated for past sexual misdemeanours.
Yeah, I've seen...
You've probably seen a lot of trailers for it.
Seen a lot of trailers, and I have recorded that, and I'm going to have a look. And do you know who Robbie Coltrane... Is it Robbie Coltrane?
Robbie Coltrane, yeah.
Reminds me of?
Who?
The film Hoffa, that told the story of Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
The union boss in America.
Yeah, who played Hoffa in that then?
I don't know, but it's a dead ringer for Robbie Coltrane.
Oh, yeah?
I think it was...
It wasn't John Goodman, was it?
No, I think it was... De Niro.
Really?
I think it was De Niro, yeah. I think so. But it was somebody who looked very much like him anyway.
Hoffa the movie. Directed by Danny DeVito.
Oh, really, yeah. And who was the lead actor?
Jack Nicholson's also in it. Jimmy Hoffa played by Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Jack Nicholson. Yeah. Well, there you go, you see. I was always
he doesn't look anything like Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah. Well, he made him look like him, honestly.
So my mother once said to me that she'd watched some interview with Robbie Coltrane in America.
Yes.
And meaning no harm by it, said, he really reminded me of you, meaning me.
Really?
Yeah. Which I didn't think was a great thing to say.
Yeah, I suppose they'd interview him in America because he was in the
he's been in
Harry Potter films.
Harry Potter films.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I suppose that's a good.
So
break
you don't
in
think
life.
there's any resemblance, then? That's good.
No, I don't think there's any resemblance, really. To be honest, I must admit.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Now then, what I need to tell you about is tomorrow night's quiz on the North East.
The North East.
Now,
yes.
do we have a definition of what we're talking about here?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much you want to get into the minutiae of how the independent quizmasters work.
Well, I mean,
I've instructed the independent quizmasters to come up with 10 questions on the North East.
Right, okay.
And until they produce the questions, I have no further kind of communication with them.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm quite comfortable with that.
I mean, I don't think you're going to find that they're going to somehow annex a part of the Northwest and call it the Northeast.
No, well, that's all right.
I suspect.
That's okay.
But I think it will be,
excuse me,
I would imagine, about the sort of the culture of the Northeast, perhaps.
Yes,
maybe a few personalities from the Northeast.
Yes, okay, yeah, all right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm guessing.
Right, okay.
What the questions might be about.
Well, it doesn't bother me because it is a part of the world.
I mean, how long did you live up there for?
For about a year altogether.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've been up there plenty of times since.
Oh, I certainly have. Yeah. And I, know about the football club and that kind of stuff. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a fine.
Funnily enough, I saw a tweet today from the Sandman Hotel.
Oh, really?
Where
yeah,
we stayed
didn't
because
we?
I think when we stayed there, I started following them on Twitter.
That's right.
And they were putting out a piece of sort of advertising really for the theatre that we played.
Yes.
The Tyne Theatre and Opera House.
An opera house.
Because there was a comedian, quite a well-known comedian, playing there.
Oh, who's that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Because they're going to be on Saturday night at the same time. Why would I tell?
No. We certainly don't want to tell anybody that.
Why would I tell people?
Listen, I know what I meant to tell you.
Do you?
You know, we did the Paddy Hearst thing earlier on, the Paddy Hearst story on the show earlier on.
There was a movie about that,
Yeah, I know, it was fascinating. But do you know the other thing that's come up this week?
What's that?
And I reckon you might have worked on it during the time you were there. A new theory about the murder of the beauty queen girl, John Bennett.
Oh, John Bennett Ramsey.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Child beauty queen John Bennett Ramsey, whose murder shocked the world 20 years ago.
That was an incredible story, that.
May have been killed by her brother before the parents covered up what he'd done, experts now believe.
Well, there was definitely the belief that the parents had known a lot more than they were saying.
That's right.
Because the whole story of an intruder and somebody who had come from the outside...
And then took her into the cellar and murdered her and buried her body.
At random, it didn't make any sense,
No. I mean, just to explain to our millions of listeners, this was a little girl who at 6 years of age was being fated as Miss Teeny America.
She was going into these kids' beauty pageants. Which are very weird and freaky to begin with.
And whose parents must be very odd to allow their little girl to...
Well, they positively encouraged that.
Of course they did. And then one day, you're absolutely right, it's reported that she's been killed.
Yeah.
And this ridiculous story about an intruder who just happened to break into the house, spotted her, sexually assaulted her, killed her.
One of the things that made it very, very difficult for the police to believe the story, even though there wasn't apparently any other kind of plausible explanation, was there was snow on the ground.
That's right.
Because it was out in Colorado, I think.
That's right, yeah.
And there were no footsteps in the snow.
Yeah, no, that's right, yeah.
You know?
And all sorts of things like why the parents didn't ring the 911 number to call the police for hours and hours after she disappeared and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. We know we should talk some more about that, because I think there's been a few films made about that, but we are basically out of time.
Okay.
This has been the Two Mics.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne, podcast from the Two Mics. We went back to her parents' house, which is a great 5-bedroom house on the edge of a golf course in a place called Upton.
Okay.
Which is a suburb
Upton. How appropriate.
Upton, that's right, in a suburb of Chester.
No good.
Suburb of Chester. Anyway, we got some more drink out and all that, and then she put some music on, and it was this rubbish.
Leonard Cohen.
Oh, it's this bilge.
Oh, she was probably trying to be romantic.
It was dreadful. So I couldn't get in the mood at all. I said, "What is this?" And it was that record, Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And
there are various interpretations of what it's meant to be about.
What's it supposed to be about?
Well, there's one interpretation which says that it has a sort of sexual connotation.
Oh, really?
And that Hallelujah represents an orgasm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There are other. For
me.
Well, maybe. Well, that would have been the 12 pints of beer.
Yeah. OK, well, it says here that scientists in Canada and China who are investigating the potential for creating a quantum network in which information could be transmitted in an uncrackable form by using this property is now well advanced. Right. And this comes from the journal I've told you about, Nature Photonics, OK?
No, I don't know what that is either.
Nature Photonics.
What's Nature Photonics?
It's a magazine which studies the nature of photonics.
OK.
OK?